Good evening. Can you hear me? Good evening. This is a regular board meeting of the Palo Alto Unified School District School Board. Today is May 23rd, 2023. The board met in closed session and voted unanimously to enter in a settlement agreement, including a payment of $146,887 for reimbursement for student and attorney's fees in exchange for release of all past and future claims against the district through the end of the 2023-2024 school year for PAUSD student SE 2223.04. Can I get a motion on the agenda order?
I'm going to move that we make a change to the agenda order. I'm going to move that we move number 7A, the staff report, to 2E.
Okay, is there a second?
I second.
Okay, do you want to say a little bit about why, or?
I think there's a lot of people in this room who are here to talk about student behavioral support, so we might as well talk about it early.
Makes sense. Okay. Do we have a,
Jennifer?
Yeah,
I just have a question.
yep.
While I think that's a good move, we have people that have signed up for open forum but wanted to speak to this topic. And now that we made it the agenda item for 2E, I just want to make sure that we are able to move people appropriately from open forum to 2E, if that's where they'd rather speak. I hope that makes sense, so that we don't have this item and not have that taken care of. So I want to ask Ms. Lau if that's possible, if there's enough information to be able to move the speakers to that item now that we've put it in front of open forum.
So Ms. Lau, correct me if I'm wrong, but right now we only have one comment on that item, right? And other people are commenting on open forum. And it might be a question of personal opinion of the speaker as to which one it falls under, right?
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm also okay just saying that if it was connected enough, just let them speak during the 2E is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So that we don't have to wait.
Can I just add one thing, though, Dr. Austin? We have a 30-minute limit on items and not an open forum. And I don't want to limit the amount of people who can speak.
So if it's okay with everybody, we'll have the brief presentation on elementary behavior supports, and we'll discuss. And then people, even though we're talking about elementary behavior supports, we will accept all of these comments under open forum. Does that comport with everyone's? We're going to do our best here.
Yes.
If you feel like you would want to move it to behavior supports, fill out the comment thing again, and we'll move you over there. Otherwise, we'll keep you at open forum, and open forum will happen right after the behavior supports item. So you're speaking within a couple minutes of each other, whichever one you do.
There's just going to be other topics being discussed during open forum as well.
Assuming we approve that. So perhaps we should take a vote on this. Student preferential board vote in favor of moving the agenda order.
Aye.
Just to confirm, would the reports be before or after the shift?
Your reports will be exactly where they're going to be, and the elementary behavior supports ad hoc committee report will happen just before consent.
Okay, thank you.
Instead of after open forum. Okay.
All right, aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, colleagues, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Okay. Now I got to go back to our agenda. Okay. Next is student board member reports, our last ones.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Daniel, and I'm here to talk about, for the last time, gun events. In the last few weeks, Gun has held its end-of-year events, including SEC's Fine Arts Festival, where students displayed their short films and their artworks during prime and after school, respectively. Twin Day followed 2 days later, where siblings could participate in teamwork activities and a photo contest. That day, juniors and seniors also traveled to Great America for their physics field trip. Everyone downloaded an app on their phone for them to measure the different velocities and forces of roller coasters. Student Council transition training also happened last Wednesday. All old and outgoing SEC members gave advice to the new coming members and to ensure that they all understand all procedures for next year. Additionally, unofficially, the seniors ran their Ditch Day event on Sunday last week, and the seniors camped out on Francis Beach in Half Moon Bay overnight and had a great bonding time. The Monday following that night, most seniors cut school and went on their own fun hangouts. Pride Day was also last Monday and Tuesday. Events took place on the senior quad, including different quiz games, selling gun Pride t-shirts, learning in depth about Pride events, and more. Yesterday was Gun's Future Day. All seniors wore their college shirts and other shirts that represented what they were going to do in the future and took pictures with all of their classmates. It was a very fun day seeing where everyone was going to end up being and to savor the last moments with each other. Coming up, we also have more senior events, such as the mysterious grad trip on the night of graduation, senior paper toss, and senior sunset this Friday. And of course, there are finals next week, so I'm wishing everyone good luck and don't study and stress too hard. Lastly, of course, I want to say a big thank you to everyone that I've met this past year. Being Gun Student Board Rep has sometimes been stressful, but because of how supportive everyone has been, the staff, the board members, my experience here has been a lot of fun. So I'm very glad to have seen all the behind the scenes work of a district, and I'm truly grateful for everything this year. So thank you, and I hope the upcoming board rep is less funny and less charming than I am.
Thank you so much, Daniel. And if you haven't noticed, we're repping our schools today with our t-shirts as per tradition. Hello, everyone. Again, for the last time, I'm here to talk about what Pally has been up to. We've had a lot going on for our final weeks. We just held our annual Field Day Pally Play event last Friday, which had an extended lunch, and ASB provided popcorn and churros, and our class officers ran carnival-style games like ring toss, trivia, and pin the hat on the Viking, giving out prizes like bubbles and sticky hands. We were also treated to ice cream sandwiches by PTSA, and from a non-school affiliated event, some seniors brought a slip and slide to the quad as well. Juniors will be having their ice cream social this Thursday after school, and sophomores will have their Otter Pop social this Friday. ASB also kickstarted the planning for next year with the ASB retreat and training last Monday. Going into our arts, choir performed their small ensembles concert last Tuesday and presented their senior awards, while Pally Band had their final concert last Thursday. Pally Theater is also hosting their showcases tomorrow and Friday. Our classes are also wrapping up. Sociology students are presenting their projects on the quad, and in the library building, auto shop students hosted a car show last Friday, and our writers craft students had their biannual Poem in Your Pocket event where students and staff could receive and recite poetry. Different departments are also having their awards with, for example, the Rachel Austin Award for English being presented last Wednesday during lunch. In our social justice pathway, students hosted a postcard booth at the California Avenue Farmers Market to continue advocating for Muekwa tribe recognition, while others organized a book recognition for underrepresented groups. Juniors also put on Junk Couture last Friday, which is an annual event where juniors are tasked to make an amazing outfit out of trash and junk and then model the clothes that they made for an audience. Journalism is also wrapping up with Proof, our arts magazine, Campanile, and the 10-year anniversary CMAG being released, as well as Madrono being distributed tomorrow. Athletic seasons are also coming to a close, with Pally boys swimming and dive getting third in state, amazing, and track and field doing CIF state trials and finals this weekend. Gun and Pally also had a joint event called Game Day, which was hosted by the YCS clubs. Students got the chance to play all types of games, including sports, arts, and academic games, as well as enjoy food trucks. As many of us students are anticipating, we have finals, of course, this week for seniors and next week for everyone else. Wellness hosted a de-stress event last week, and this week we'll be having therapy animals. Our snack and study event for spring finals is also happening, where pizza and snacks will be provided with extended library hours. For senior events, of course, we had our senior week last week and distributed caps, gowns, and stoles. Our elimination game actually has 5 players now, with kills going by really fast last week. The current pose is a bit of a hassle, but cheering on all those left in elimination. This Thursday will be our senior awards ceremony, and our senior celebration will be this Friday on the quad, and we will end with our last day of school this Friday and have a teacher speak for us, ending with our paper toss. We also held auditions for graduation speakers and senior talent, and our graduation rehearsal will be next Wednesday. And right after that will be our Santa Cruz trip, of course, graduation and grad night be on June 1st. As all of you know, this is our last board meeting as board reps and our last meeting before the school year comes to a close. So I also wanted to take a moment to thank all of our board members, Ms. DiBrienza, Mr. Collins, Mr. O'Dauber, who served last semester, Mr. Drott, Ms. Ledemirick, and Ms. Siegel for all of your tireless work for this district and for supporting us as student board reps. I also want to thank Dr. Austin for guiding us in all of our pre-meetings and Ms. Lau for preparing and sending us the agenda and putting out all of our nameplates and everything like that. I want to just extend my gratitude to all the staff, technicians, employees, and everyone who just makes board meetings and the entire district run as it does. Of course, like we as students are not going to fully see everything that it takes to do such a feat, but from the window of understanding that we got, we just appreciate you so much for all that you do for us as students. I'm so honored to have been able to serve as the student board rep for Pali this year, to be able to communicate and learn and hopefully make an impact in our community PAUSD and maybe have some entertaining reports sometimes. After this, Karthik Godapati will be serving as our new board rep for next year, and I'm looking forward to seeing him and future student board reps continue to serve and represent our students. So thank you so much, everyone. Congrats to the 2B graduates, and I hope you all have a wonderful summer. Thank you.
Now we get to spend a few minutes gushing about you guys. So no pressure. Who would like to start us off?
Well, I'll start off because I'm going to give you gifts. To be clear, these are from all of us. They are not just from me. Our tradition here is that the board vice president, which is me, takes the lead on this part of it. So here we go. Green and red, so I can help you. Thank you so much. Oh, this is so sweet. Thank you, Ms. Ledemirick. And I do just want to say, and I said this in the cards as well, you two have really been amazing. And I think examples for what we should all hope for all of our students leaving this district. Your willingness to engage, to learn, to be curious, to ask questions, to not assume you know everything. You're a good model for adults, as well as I think your personal integrity and courage and your willingness to speak your truth, even when you got some pretty tough pushback. So thank you for that on behalf of myself and my kids in this district. You've done a wonderful job. Thank you.
You've been great role models. I would say that you've been great board members, not just student board members, but great board members. You've set an excellent example for students and for any members of the community who choose to run for the board in the future. So, thank you.
When I met you both last fall, I was in awe of your maturity, your thoughtfulness, your kindness, your ability to ask really good and difficult questions. And as I've now worked with you for the past 6 months, my admiration for both of you has only grown. As a former high school teacher, I just want to acknowledge how lucky we all are in this community to have had them as our board reps this year, and I'm truly grateful. So thank you.
You guys are amazing. Johanna, I have known you since kindergarten, and Daniel, I didn't meet you till senior year. But working with you this year, just especially in this seat as board president, you guys are curious, you guys are brave, you guys are so ready for this next step that, you know, everyone talks about. Are they ready to fly? Are they ready to go to the next step? You guys are ready. And it has been so much fun to work with you, to learn from you, to see you bring a wide range of student perspectives to this dais every meeting, to do your homework, to ask questions, to push back, to speak your truth. You guys really knocked it out of the park, and you are going to be sorely missed. The last 2 meetings of the year will be sad without anyone sitting there. But we look forward to the next students, and we are so, so grateful for your service and wish you so much luck in your next chapter. Thank you. Okay. Okay, I think we're on to the superintendent's report.
I'm going to save my comments for 2E now. They're more appropriate there.
Okay,
And we can just move on with the agenda if that's okay with you.
sure.
All right. Then I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Bahadur Singh to kick us off for our CSEA Employee of the Year Awards.
Thank you, Dr. Austin. This week in California is Classified School Employees Week, and part of the recognition for a couple of our employees tonight, we have Phyllis Smith and CSEA President Meb Steiner, who would like to recognize a couple of our PAUSD employees.
Thank you very much for having us. And basically, I would like to let you know that we sent out to all school district employees, classified, administrative, and certificated, and we asked for nominations for Employee of the Year to see who they felt would have gone above and beyond. And we got a lot of responses, and we narrowed it down to 3. So I would like to ask Derek Moore and Isidro to come up, please. And also Virginia now, and Lana Argumente Mindo. And is Lena in the audience? I didn't see her come in. Is Lena here, Costada? Okay, she is the custodian at Addison. She's a custodian at Addison, and she received one of our awards. Mr. Downing, the principal, could not be there, but he wrote a few words that Meb would like to read to you.
So good evening. Thank you so much. This is always just such a fun presentation. Phyllis is actually retired from our district, but still actively involved in the school employees, classified school employees of the year. And she and Joan Shear have been doing this. And they've done some individual ceremonies at the sites, which are always delightful, especially when the kids come out. And tonight is formally for the whole community and for the board. So Classified School Employees Week was established in 1986 by the California State Legislature to honor the work and contributions of classified employees. And as we know, it takes all of us to make things happen, but there was a special sort of shout out for the work of all of the employees other than teachers and administrators who make our schools function. So this year we have the 3 winners, and Lena Castaneda is our custodian at Addison. And Mr. Brown was not able to come, but he shared this comment. When I was hired to become the new principal at Addison, I was told about Lena and how she really was the heartbeat of the school, and that things would operate just fine as long as she was there. I found this to be absolutely true. Lena handles her responsibilities with the highest of expectations and ensures that everything is in tip-top shape for the students when they arrive and while they are here on campus. It does not stop there. Her attitude is infectious. She greets everyone with a smile, knows all of the students, and treats all of the staff with respect and kindness. Over the summertime, she even invited MOT, that's Maintenance, Operations, and Transportation, staff that work at Addison throughout the week to a barbecue just to show her appreciation for them and thank them for all that they do for our school and the district. She is a true professional who brings positivity and good energy to every space that she is in. So congratulations to Lena, and thank you.
Next, I would like to introduce Lionel Argumundo, I hope I pronounced that right, and Virginia now. She is the Secretary Clerk at El Carmelo. If you would please come forward and say a few words.
Good evening, everyone, and members of the board. My name is Lionel Argumedo, and I am the principal at El Carmelo Elementary. It is no secret that our school secretaries and clerks are the lifeline of our schools. They support our teachers and classified staff. They assist our families and students. They help put out fires so that administrators can go on about their very busy days. They do whatever it takes to get the job done. In October, when I stepped in as interim principal to a site that was short-staffed in the front office, I was worried. What I didn't know was that El Carmelo had a hidden gem in Ginny Nagal. Without hesitation, Ginny learned new systems and procedures. She made sure that our students and staff felt supported and safe, and made sure that all school activities and functions would go as planned, all the while fulfilling her duties as our attendance clerk. Without her support, I don't know what I would have done. I have worked with many great classified staff in my 19 years in Palo Alto. Virginie, you are one of the best. Thank you for everything you did for our students, our staff, our community, and for me. Thank you.
And I have a certificate that has been signed by Mr. Austin, as well as Meb Steiner, as well as Jennifer DeBreeze.
Brianza.
I'm not good with names, or can you tell that? And also we have a paperweight that says CSEA Employee of the Year for Dupree. And now I'd like to ask Derek Moore and Isidro to step forward, and if they have a few words to say.
Yes, I do. Thank you. I have the pleasure of presenting Isidro Pimentel, our webmaster. And webmaster is an interesting title today because it takes on lots of different things because there's lots of things on the web. So what I thought I'd do is bring some collateral and what Isidro has worked on for us this past year. So one, I have the Promise Annual Report Book. So we a lot of time went into this from everybody, from a lot of people around the district. Isidro is the one that made it look nice. And made it look like it does, and made it look like something that people within we would want to read. So that's this is Isidro's work all the way through. In addition to that, what just came out earlier this week was the newspaper ad as well. So this these are some of the examples of what Isidro has done this year, and doing the work behind the scenes to make sure that what we're putting out as an organization looks professional and polished, and something that is visually fun to look at. The other piece that he really focuses on is surveys. So surveys big and small, all the way across every survey in the last couple of years has been Isidro's work of going out and make sure the process works and make sure that the results come back and there's a dashboard and nice to look at. And the one I think that we're most proud of is the One Palo Alto process, where we had some volunteers, just a small number of volunteers, and the whole process around the logistics to collect volunteers, made sure the school sites could contact them, and such was the work of Isidro. So thank you very much. I'm very happy to present this.
And I have a certificate and a paperweight for Isidro too. And thank you to everybody for supporting all of our classified employees throughout the year and years. And I'll be back again next year. Congratulations, everybody.
So thank you so much for the time, and thank you to Phyllis. I just want to share the saying for this year is that classified professionals are indispensable and inspiring and invincible. So that is for this year. There's been different themes over the years. Before I turn it back over to the rest of the board agenda, I want to give a special shout out to all of our membership. Really a thank you to all of our classified staff. And thank you to everyone in our district who supports our classified staff, because it's each of us supporting the other and doing it together. We were honored this year. I'm going to point over there. There's a flag. Let me just go grab them. Phyllis, can you be my prop lady? So we were very honored this year to receive the Circle of Stars Award from CSEA. And we got a, and when I say we, that means our chapter 301. The Circle of Stars is an award that CSEA gives to chapters for their commitment to the political work that CSEA does. And the political work of CSEA focuses on the mission of CSEA, which is to improve the lives of our members, students, and communities. And the majority of our political work goes towards public school education funding, supporting programs for our students, such as lunch for everybody, now hot breakfast, transportation needs, para-educators, supporting arts programs, supporting the employees who work in public schools, and supporting the communities that have public schools in them to enrich their public schools and support the public schools there, because we are firm believers that public education is critical to a democracy and to the future as we educate our students. So we received the plaque for the Circle of Stars Award for that commitment by our members, because we had the greatest increase in people joining our Victory Club and voluntarily contributing to that. In addition to the plaque, we were awarded a certificate by Senator Josh Becker, because we were also presented with this beautiful flag that actually flew over the state capitol. So we have to find a spot for this, because we don't actually have like an office. So I'm wondering if there's somewhere that the whole community could enjoy this honor. So we'll discuss that. So I just wanted to share that and just thank our membership for their commitment to our students and each other and to our communities. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Congratulations on the recognition for the chapter. And as you know, Meb, every spring when you guys do this, it is like one of the most fun events that happens, right? We get to really focus on celebrating just even a few of our amazing classified staff. And I appreciate recognizing everyone. Thank you. So now we're moving on to our new 2E, which is going to be the Behavior Supports Ad Hoc Committee report.
Yeah, Ms. Brown's going to get us started. Then we'll hear from Ms. Boyce, and then I'll close before we go to comment.
Thank you, Dr. Austin. Good evening, everyone. Tonight, Ms. Amanda Boyce will present the Elementary Behavior Support Ad Hoc Committee's recommendations for supporting students with behavioral concerns. As is the case with student behavior across the state and country, PAUSD has also been experiencing an increase with student dysregulated behaviors. These recommendations have been shared with and agreed upon by the committee at the conclusion of the process. Additional stakeholder input was also solicited, including psychologists and elementary principals. I'd like now to introduce Ms. Amanda Boyce, the Director of Special Education, to present these recommendations. Ms. Boyce?
Thank you, Ms. Brown, and good evening, board members. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share the work and recommendations of the Elementary Behavior Ad Hoc Committee. Over the past 5 years, there's been an increase in elementary student behavioral concerns, referrals to our behavior supports team, and requests for functional behavior assessments and behavior intervention plans. Therefore, the charge of the Elementary Behavior Support Ad Hoc Committee was to identify and define tiered levels of behavioral support, including strategies and tracking information. Our considerations included determining a common definition of dysregulated behavior, reflecting on the intersection between social-emotional learning, mental health, and behavior, analyzing the current programs and supports in tiers 1 through 3, reviewing the board policies and administrative regulations related to student wellness, positive school climate, discipline, suspension, and expulsion, and discussing the U.S. Department of Education recommendations outlined in a March 2023 publication titled Guiding Principles for Creating Safe, Inclusive, Supportive, and Fair School Climates. The members on the committee included our Assistant Superintendent of Elementary Education, 3 principals, teachers in both general and special education, PAEA President Terry Baldwin, our behavior team manager and a behavior intervention coach, parents, and a CAC rep. Our committee met 4 times for approximately 8 hours. We reviewed board policies, our bias and personal experiences with dysregulated behaviors in our respective positions, the history of the PAUSD Behavior Support Services team, and the PAUSD Student Behavior Flowchart created by our Director of Student Services. We also read and discussed the U.S. Department of Education guiding principles related to a safe environment and analyzed our current multi-tiered systems of support relative to behavior, mental health, and well-being. In our current multi-tiered systems of support relative to behavior, in Tier 1, we have a variety of social-emotional curriculum and strategies across sites and preliminary use of the behavior flowchart. In Tier 2, we have referral and services from a mental health and wellness associate and informal behavior contracts. And in Tier 3, we have the referral and services from our behavior support team, including the possibility of a functional behavior assessment and a behavior intervention plan. The successes in our current model include the second step lessons and responsive classroom strategies, facilitated playgroups, behavior contracts, unstructured time with teachers and other staff members, student leadership opportunities, and the therapeutic support program at Duveneck. The challenges have been inconsistent and varied SEL programs, social emotional learning programs, finding and accessing support in crisis situations, access to the behavior support team, and limited staff development and knowledge of how to support dysregulated behaviors. Therefore, the recommendations from the Behavior Elementary Ad Hoc Committee include implementation of consistent social emotional learning programs and behavioral intervention strategies in Tier 1, access and support for all students from our behavioral team in Tier 2, and continued more intensive support and direct service from our behavioral team in Tier 3. We would also like to systemize the PAUSD behavioral flowchart introduced to administrators earlier this year, develop differentiated ongoing professional development for both classified and certificated staff that supports the 3 tiers of intervention, build consistent practices in tracking, documenting, and monitoring student behavior data and uploading it to our data management system, provide parent education regarding how to support a dysregulated child and build consistent communication between home and school when behavioral incidents occur, and consider expanding the behavior support team for limited direct access to students and to coach and model behavioral interventions for staff in order to build capacity and skills at the site. One recommended model is assigning a behavior intervention coach to each elementary site to partner with our mental health and wellness associate in order to meet our vision of a cross-disciplinary approach to address dysregulated behavior. The recommendations of the committee align with the following guiding principles recommended by our U.S. Department of Education: fostering a sense of belonging through positive, safe, welcoming, and inclusive environments, supporting the social, emotional, physical, and mental health needs of all students through evidence-based strategies, supporting high-quality teaching and learning by increasing educator capacity, and ensuring the fair administration of student discipline policies in a ways that treat student with dignity and respect. Thank you very much for your time, and I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Austin.
All right. So Amanda and the committee, I just want to say thank you for the work. I think that there are some steps here that we can definitely put action behind. Unfortunately, this report coincides with 2 recent incidents at our schools that have caused legitimate concern within our community. And before we go any further, I want to acknowledge the impact these incidents have had on our staff and assure you that the well-being of our staff is a top priority. Earlier today, I met with our 3 association presidents as part of our ongoing efforts to address student behavior issues. Today, we spent quite a bit of time together. We agreed that a third-party investigation is important, but I want to just quickly talk about why, because we had total agreement with the group. It's going to begin around June 9th. That timing isn't great, and we know that some people will be leaving for summer, and if that happens, then we'll pick up when they return. But the intent of the third party is to look at every part of the system, not to find fault and blame, but to make us better. And when I mean every part of the system, I mean every part of the system. While transparency is important, we must also respect the privacy of those involved, including the staff and students. So tonight, before we move into the comment section, and we're happy to hear from everybody, we kindly ask for your cooperation in approaching this matter with understanding and sensitivity. And thank you for your presence here today. I assure you your voices will be heard. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, colleagues, this, as you know, is just a report that is coming back to us, but obviously of great interest. Does anybody have any comments or questions for Ms. Boyce, any of the committee, Dr. Austin? Oh, we have one comment. We've got one comment. Stephen Davis, thank you. That's it. I think everyone else is going to go open forum, which will be soon. See, what would I do without you guys? Sorry, Mr. Davis.
It'll happen again, probably.
It'll probably happen again. I'm doing my best.
Thank you, board members. I was here particularly to talk on the elementary presentation, behavior presentation. The presentation, actually, if you looked at it, probably could have been given by any school district at any time. And that bugs me because I only can see the public data and I can only see what we would call probably tier 4, which is suspensions and expulsions, but there just aren't enough of those. As I've cited with the board before, 50% of our suspensions are students with disability. At much tedious effort going through the sites, DataQuest and the California dashboard, I found that 83% of our suspensions of elementary students are students with disabilities. When we're not addressing that issue as part of our discussion about behavior, we're not addressing the crux of the issue. The questions, are the students being adequately supported through their IEPs and 504s? Are the teachers being adequately supported and trained through through the IEP and 504, since that can do that for both? Are the staff and the principals and everybody involved being appropriately trained? Data makes a difference. This was totally generic. I mean, literally there was nothing here that said anything about our situation and the predominance. There are only 10% of our kids are students with disabilities, yet 50% of our suspensions. It's something is basically broken. It's time to do something about it. Thank you.
Okay, colleagues, comments, questions? Ms. Siegel?
I am in favor of the recommendations, especially expanding the behavior support plan. It says expanding behavior support plan. I would love to see it expanded. I see that some of the other recommendations included analyzing class building processes, numbers and caps, building private sensory spaces at elementary schools, creating a robust safety care team at each site, and aligning all elementary parent handbooks with consistent information regarding behavior and discipline. I'm also in favor of those. So I was wondering if maybe we could expand to add those that were once part of the recommendations.
Okay. Do you have a question specifically for staff right now?
Yeah, so my question is there a reason that those recommendations weren't also moved forward? Because when reading them, they all seem like they would be helpful. That's my question.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you. So at the conclusion of our committee work, we reviewed, we projected, we came to agreement with the ones that were brought forth to the board, but I did want our individual members' voices to be heard, so the additional comments were recommendations by single members on the committee, which is why they were the additional considerations.
Mr. Hart?
So what's the next step for the board with respect to these recommendations? Is there one?
Yes, we can, just like we have with each previous ad hoc, we'll bring them back for action consideration for you at an upcoming meeting. So it'll be exactly the same as the other ad hocs.
So in previous ad hocs, some of the recommendations have come forward as a staff recommendation, right? Some committee recommendations have come forward as a staff recommendation, and we've considered them. And so same thing happened. Maybe all of these will come back, maybe some subset will come back. Maybe you'll come back with even more than what is on here. Okay, and I assume that'll be in the fall, that'll be next meeting, that'll be, I know we only have 2 more meetings. Do you have a sense of that timeline yet?
Well, I wanted to hear from the board to see if there are things that rose to the top. Again, just being consistent with the other ad hocs. Yep. There's definitely an opportunity to bring some back for the next 2 meetings. That's not a problem. Some would be more a fall item, and then there might be some things that come out of the third-party investigation that are things that none of us had considered, including the entire ad hoc committee. So that would be another opportunity. This is definitely not a one-shot item.
Okay.
And
Were you done? I'm sorry.
Before Mr. Collins, I only asked because it does seem like some of these things are in our promise, so they align, the recommendations align with the goals in our promise. So that would just be implementation of what the board has already decided in terms of policy direction. Is that right?
Ms. Merrick or Mr. Hunt?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Just to clarify what you just said, Dr. Austin, I mean, I looked at those items. Maybe you could flip back to the recommendations, if it's easy. And it didn't look, I mean, to me, yeah, as you know, as my colleagues know, I try to be careful about the board staying in its lane and the staff staying in its lane and each of us doing our jobs. It didn't seem to me that I didn't see things on here that required board authorization for the staff to move forward with, or required budget allocation that wasn't within the scope of the board. Within the scope of staff's authority? So I just wanted to see if you saw it differently. I mean, I'm happy for the board to, I'm glad that we're reviewing it. I'm happy to see the board comment on it, but it didn't, I had trouble seeing what the board vote would be here.
Well, I can give you just at a real quick look here, a very specific example. To implement a consistent SEL curriculum would mean a formal adoption of a consistent curriculum, which would require board action. And in this particular case, it'd be under a supplemental curriculum, which we have a process for.
Is that, I don't see, is that on this page?
It's one of the bullet points under the first one on the slide, so it is on the board report.
Okay. I guess I would just emphasize, it's like, there are things, it's good that the board reviews all of this. I mean, we're reviewing all the ad hoc committee recommendations, but let's make sure we don't get the board, it's not the board's job to say, you know, to authorize you to develop an ongoing professional development plan. I mean, that's something that you should do without board authorization, and I think same true with a number of these things. So I just want to make sure that the board isn't a holdup for things that you guys already have ample authority to do.
I had a sort of related comment. The one thing that I saw in here, and thank you, Dr. Austin, for calling out adoption of a district-wide SEL, because that would require board action. The one thing I saw was one behavior intervention coach per site. Those are new positions, I assume. So those would require funding and board action on funding.
Right, so I worked with our behavior manager, Nestor Ramos, and we would be looking at approximately 8 behavior intervention coaches to be able to add to the current team and also be able to continue to support our secondary schools.
So can I ask, when you guys bring this back, again, to sort of follow up on Mr. Collins said, I would love to see it separated out, what you need board approval on, and then what you guys are going full steam ahead on that does not require board approval. So we have it kind of all in one place. You bring it back. Can you do that? Okay, thanks.
I didn't ask you to, if you had any comments or questions, I'm sorry. Okay, I do see that there is one more comment that came in, and I see no reason not to call them now. It is just a first name, it says Krista.
Hi, I'm Krista. I'm a teacher. I was on the ad hoc committee. I'm also a parent and a community member. Behavior has been tough for us as teachers. It has kind of gotten away from us, and we need help. It's not because we're not doing our best. It's not because we don't fight for our babies every day. We do, and we're failing. We're failing to teach them properly in reading. We're failing to teach our most struggling kids in math because we are chasing behaviors by ourselves. We're being asked to be therapists, teachers, administrators, behavioralists, everything on our own, isolated in our classrooms, and we can't do it. We're failing, and it breaks our hearts. We need help. We are asking you all, each and every one of you, to really look deeply at this issue and step forward in a new way. Thank you.
Please. Thank you. Okay, so Dr. Austin, it sounds like, I think you've heard sort of a consensus here that there are some issues that you can move ahead with without really any board approval, right? We don't want to find that at the end of June or beginning of July, you came up with an idea, but you're going to hold it till August when, you know, we can approve it at a board meeting or something. There's probably a lot you can move ahead with. I noticed the same thing as Ms. Lettermerrick did, that if we were actually going to have behavior intervention specialists, behavior coaches at each site, that's a big dollar number, and so obviously that's something that would come to us. But I think you've heard a majority of the board interested in that. The other thing I noticed that I heard Ms. Segal mention that I saw as well was just the idea of like that universal handbook. I feel like we've at times talked about, hey, a handbook that sort of lays out what are, maybe it's like part of our training manual, right? After people get trained in certain things, here are some of the high level things that we talked about as a reminder, but so that everyone's working with the same language, because I think one of the things that we've heard some staff say is, oh, I did it this way and you did it that way, and I didn't realize. So I don't know what that would look like. It's called a handbook, called a training manual. I don't know, maybe it's notes, but some place where staff can sort of be getting the same message about what is expected.
Yeah, I just want to touch on that. And to your points, we don't need permission to go on some of these things, and in fact have. One thing after an incident when we did checking for understanding, we found confusion in places we didn't know confusion existed, and we clarified that the next day. And the way we did it in that particular case, and I've shared this with Ms. Baldwin and actually gave her a copy and gave her permission to share, and I think she has. We talked about it. Every single site administrator in our entire district received the same piece in their evaluation now, which is about a page long, doing with nothing except the topic of discipline, and with additional caveats about steps to take if special education is a factor. But to really clarify that, and we had a great talk about this topic with our association presidents today, that while some things are covered in behavior plans, behavior expectations need to be the same for everyone, meaning that a behavior, let's just call it what it is, a behavior that results in a physical contact is not appropriate. Now, one thing that's been really challenging, and I had this talk with PTAC a couple weeks ago probably, is these intersections of different disabilities sometimes being a factor in classroom behaviors, and at what point do we work through those? At what point does that create an unsafe environment for the student themselves, for the staff in the room, for other students? Those are the things we're tackling. That is why this ad hoc committee was created before these incidents. This is why everyone will receive the same exact directions, and I'm happy to pass them out to anybody. It's not a secret document, but it could not be more specific. And I'd like to thank PAMA for working with me on that document, not only working with me, but embracing the importance of the document, not coming in defensive. And I think that's going to help make us better. So to everyone's points, there are plenty of things that we don't need additional permission to move on, and some of which we already have.
You got something too? Okay, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to say, because we have so many people here who are interested in this topic or adjacent topics, that sometimes when we talk about these topics up here, we jump right into the how are we going to get it done. And I think sometimes we forget, having done 4 of us at least, and Sean has jumped, Ms. Siegel has jumped really into the role as well quickly, we forget about acknowledging the unstated parts. So I hope that when you heard us say, okay, what's the next step for the board and what comes to a vote and what can move forward without a vote, what many of us were saying that we didn't say was that we really appreciate the work that the committee has done, and that every member of the committee who was on it contributed to the recommendations, and an agreement that, yes, we do need to do something different and more. And the recommendations are, we looked at those and we said, yeah, okay, how do we make that happen? So we didn't say that, and so I hope you heard that, even though it wasn't said. And now that I've said it.
Can I add something to that too? Because I think the other thing that what we do when we do that is for me at least, what I'm also communicating is, this is not my area of expertise. I'm glad we had that committee. That committee was the experts. You guys tell us. And so when we are trying to distinguish between what does the board need in front of us, it's because we don't want to assume that we have more expertise than the people who are on that committee, and that the people who are doing this every day. So we want to stay in our lane. We want to support where you need support. We want to approve where we need to approve, but you don't have to convince us that it's important to implement MTSS. Like, you tell us it's important, we got it.
The last question I have, which it doesn't directly fit in here, but I think it is related. So I'm going to ask it and tell me if you want to answer it at the next meeting or whatnot. But many questions have been asked about, hey, do we share our safety protocols? Do we share our plans in an emergency situation, or if a room has to be evacuated, or if there's a threat or whatever? And I think that you've answered this in some areas before, but is that a question that you feel like you can answer now? I anticipate some of our open forum questions will be, hey, we want to see the safety plan for our site. And I think there are some concerns with just sharing that outright, but do you have an answer to that? Or can we, in a future update or in a future meeting, sort of address that? Either share them or explain what we can share and what we can't share.
Yeah, so we have to a degree, but we can get it to a finer point. That's fine. I think right now is probably not the time, but we can do that as early as this Friday. It would be fine.
Yeah, not to share right now, but to sort of share if there are limits to what we share, if there are reasons why that is the case.
Well, there are definitely some limits. Right. In the moment. I think everyone understands the desire people have to know every detail, and there are lots of reasons why that isn't possible. As far as protocols, those should be consistent. Some of those have been questioned just recently, just seeing what's floating around, and some of what's floating around is accurate, some is not, some is partially accurate. That's true of any incident. I mean, really, not just these. But as far as things like expectations for our staff, if there is a fight of some kind, I don't think there's any benefit to not just sharing what we work with our staffs on and telling people this is what we expect and why. And I think that's probably something we could do. So there are examples where it makes sense. But as far as the sharing of very specific information and details, there's a lot of reasons why we can't. In some cases it's not an issue, but in some there really are.
Okay, thank you. Colleagues, any questions on this topic? Okay, and I neglected to thank the committee. And thank you for your work. I feel like we're usually pretty good at that, and we forgot. So thank you, Mr. Dara. It's important work. Okay, I think we're moving on. Oh, wait, consent calendar. Right? Open forum and then consent calendar? I see, I really need it in front of me. Whew. Okay, open forum. Here we go. Okay, as you could probably guess, everyone gets 1 minute. We have approximately 40 comments. Looks like there's a couple of repeats here. Somewhere in the 30s. As always, we will start with students. You may be familiar that I am no longer going back and forth between Zoom and in person because I find that to be somewhat unreliable, what is in here. So students first, and then I'll basically take them in the order that they came in. So let's start with Nikki Haydapur, and then Miriam Taibi, followed by Ezra Furtado Tuari. And you'll have 1 minute, and the timer will go when you start talking.
Hello, my name is Nikki Haydapur.
And Miriam Taibi.
And we are here today to talk to you about adding an important new component to the Ethnic Studies curriculum launching in the 2025 school year. We are both currently juniors at Palo Alto High School and began exploring this topic in our AP seminar class. Both of us identify as Middle Eastern and North African, or referred to as MENA for short. Currently, the Census Bureau categorizes MENA individuals as white, despite the fact that they experience discrimination on par with other minority groups. The negative repercussions of this misclassification extend to MENA students in PAUSD, as they are invisible amongst whites within data, regardless of their differing experiences. As there is little to no coverage regarding MENA culture and history, the education system is overlooking a community which is present within our schools but not within data. While it is important to offer representation for all ethnic minority groups, MENA individuals suffer from a unique experience,
as they are one of the only ethnic groups which are explicitly being misrepresented, with little effort being made to project their voices. As of 2021, the California Assembly Bill 101 requires all high schools in California to begin offering ethnic studies courses in the 2025 to 26 school year, and students in the class of 2030 will be the first ones subject to this graduation requirement. This course will cover 4 ethnic groups, including African Americans, Native Americans, Latinx Americans, and Asian Americans. Given the MENA population has begun to gain density in the Bay Area, we ask that education regarding MENA culture and history be incorporated into this course as well. As ethnic studies curriculum is developing, it's important to consider properly representing a group which has been silenced and displaced for so many decades. This will aid MENA students in PAUSD in feeling seen and educate the student population about the vast and rich culture of the MENA regions. Thank you.
And as we discussed, I was connecting you to Ms. Conaway, who's right there, and Dr. Lopez, who's right there. And so when your finals are over and you want to talk to them, there's an email out there. Ezra Furtado Tuari, Ayush Agarwal, and Albert Lee.
Hello. First, we would like to sincerely thank PAUSD for permitting Foothill to offer MVC after school at Pali next fall. It's a great start towards a solution. That said, there's still much more work to be done. We, students, want to work towards a solution, so please don't discount our voices. In the recent superintendent's update, a couple of details caught our attention. First, the following statement was made. PAUSD has maintained consistent communication with Foothill and the California Department of Education regarding teacher credentialing. We understand that the regulations require teachers to possess a California teaching credential in order to assign high school credit on a transcript. Ed Code 48800C clearly states that, quote, a pupil shall receive credit for community college courses that the pupil completes at the level determined appropriate by the governing boards of the school district and community college district. In this case, PAUSD is the school district and FHDA is the community college district. The community college district allows students to receive credit, so the choice lies with PAUSD. There are no credentialing requirements in the California state law that pertain to the assigning of credit.
Thank you. Ayush Arwal, Albert Lee, Tanush Garwal. Oh, wait. Different spelling, so it might be a different name.
Yeah.
Okay.
Furthermore, the rationale for dispute of this point was that, quote, Dr. Cho personally reached out to clarify the matter. If the CDE repeatedly told parents and students incorrect information for the purpose of transparency, we should have access to the exchange between Dr. Cho and the CDE. Unfortunately, the current level of detail is insufficient. The last part of the update was concerning to us was that, quote, PAUSD is committed to enforcing the requirement of a valid California teaching credential for the awarding of high school credit, which is factored into the PAUSD GPA regardless of how other school districts interpret the rules. Essentially, this implies that PAUSD is willing to create its own laws, claim that they are state laws, and then enforce those laws. This begs the question, is this about California state laws or PAUSD policies? Thank you.
Thank you. Albert Lee, Tanush Arwal, Alan Jang.
Nowhere in California state law is an exception to the credit rule provided for community college language classes not offered at the school district. Yet PAUSD will continue to offer credit for these classes. Given the evidence, the obvious answer is that the responsibility lies within the district and cannot be deflected to the state of California, the CDE, the CTC, or any other state organizations. After the May 9th school board meeting, the Pali School Board Rep's Instagram page posted a story asking students to be informed and to trust the process. Unfortunately, when the information provided is provably inaccurate and misleading, it cannot and therefore should not be blindly trusted. A recent front page article for the Oracle mentioned Berkeley professor Alan Schoenfield when it states that those harmed by math wars are too often end up being the students. The superintendent's update confirmed a similar viewpoint when it says everyone has the best interest of students at the forefront. Unfortunately, current POC students don't see these interests being observed in this discussion.
Thank you. Tanush Arwal, Alan Jang, Mary Yu.
Let us be absolutely clear. We are not here because our parents want us to be. We are here because we love math. And as such, we have a vested interest in how it is taught. Understanding this, we are concerned that the superintendent's update emphasized the issue as the parents versus the district. For instance, quote, parents have been forthcoming, quote, parents are concerned, quote, we will have disagreement between PAUSD and some parents. And similar phrases were used in the update. The students who would be taking the class and students who spoke at board meetings were never acknowledged. Unfortunately, other sources of information, such as the Pali Campanile and other student journalism, have been echoing this viewpoint, and it is frankly appalling that the district continues to push this rhetoric. Another bit of the update that didn't make sense to us is that people in support of multivariable calculus were labeled the vocal majority. However, it has repeatedly been brought up that discussion about multivariable calculus takes attention away from the majority of students. So it was confusing to us to be labeled as a majority that is now bullying a minority that disagrees. Thank you.
Alan Jang, Mary Yu, Hongyi Shi.
The district's labeling of us as the vocal majority signaled to us that the district will continue to ignore our views, regardless of how large a body we are. In addition, a different part of the update stated that the bulk of PAUSD families are interested in a variety of topics outside of multivariable calculus, which would imply that families talking about multivariable calculus are a minority, which seemed contradictory. Perhaps this was not the intent of the message, but it was certainly seemed to imply this. Regardless, if a vocal majority is interested in offering the class, why are we ignoring them? Would we prefer to have a silent majority and a vocal minority? Furthermore, Foothill has agreed to offer Math 2B through the same course sequence at Pali. So to claim that offering linear algebra is an expansion of course offerings or that it is changing demand is inaccurate. We believe that Dr. Austin likely misspoke, but feel the need to clarify this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Yu, Hongyi Shi, Salvik Siverman.
We condemn all personal attacks made by anyone due to this issue. Those types of comments have no place in analytical discussion that mathematics education deserves. However, we promise to critically consider and, if needed, contest every idea to make sure that it is the best and most sensible it can be. We hope no one will conflate scrutinizing ideas with attacking people. Better communication will lead to solutions to many current issues. In the future, more than anything else, we would like to see transparency. We know the district has the best intentions for its students, so it should let students in on its processes. If the district could cite the laws that are precluding it from taking action and provide communication with external organizations like the CDE, that would be much appreciated. This way, we will not have to reach out to them ourselves, which would prevent any contradictory information from being shared. Rather than saying we talked to the CDE, it would be appreciated if you provide transcripts of communication. For example, the email from Foothill College. Thank you.
Thank you. Song Shi, Satvic, Benjamin Vakil, and Julian Hall.
Students are still interested in having the course during the school day, like our neighboring school district, MPLA, although we understand that Foothill might be unable to provide this. If PAUSD could make an attempt to discuss this with Foothill in the future, we would appreciate that, although we understand that the course is not included in the AB 288 agreement, and thus this conversation may not be possible. However, we would like to see some discussion between Foothill and PAUSD about this still. Last, we wanted to clarify some misconceptions about what students are interested in. At the moment, we're not interested in moving multivariable calculus into the standard PAUSD math pathway. What we are interested in is continuing to offer the class as a single credit class, as it was offered prior to the cancellation and prior to the pandemic. Every student deserves 4 years of high-quality math education. As we see no legal issues with placing multivariable calculus, the course on the high school transcript, we are also interested in seeing students receive appropriate credit for the challenging college courses they will be taking.
Thank you. Satvic, Benjamin, Julian Hall.
We fully understand the challenges you face in trying to ensure fairness and uphold the rigorous academic standards that PAUSD is known for. However, we must not disregard the legitimate educational aspirations of those students who are eager to delve deeper into advanced mathematics. In terms of solutions, one possibility we see is to give multivariable calculus the same treatment that's given to language courses not taught within our district. If students are allowed to receive credit for language classes taken elsewhere due to a lack of availability on campus, then the same should apply to advanced math courses not offered in the standard curriculum, as ultimately, our goal should be to provide the most challenging and enriching educational opportunities for all our students. As such, an ad hoc committee would allow the district to understand student perspectives on math-related issues so that students do not feel left out of discussions and their voices are heard and taken into account when decisions are made. Thank you.
Thank you. Benjamin, Julian, Lars Johnson.
To reiterate, we are grateful that the multivariable calculus course was reinstated on a PAUSD campus. We appreciate your hard work and dedication to this issue, we really do. However, no change to California state law has mandated the course be altered or removed, so the rationale for its removal appears to be arbitrary, or worse, reactionary. We kindly ask the district to provide a more in-depth reason for why credit for multivariable calculus cannot be given on a high school transcript. We would highly appreciate it if the board would create an ad hoc committee for math education for next year, which includes students of varying opinions, including ours. We want this so that we can work to make math education the most enjoyable it can be for every student, not just us. This shouldn't be too much to ask for, as the board and superintendent have promised in board protocol number 3 to, quote, openly operate with trust and integrity. We promise to reciprocate this trust and integrity that we feel is currently lacking. We are, of course, happy to further correspond with the district, community, and media for this issue. And from all of us, thank you.
Julian Hong, Lars Johnson, Michael Strodecker.
Hi, everyone. I'm Julian, Pally incoming student body president and the news and opinion editor of the Campanelli. I just want to use my time today to address some concerns that I have with some of the responses from the community. One being the credit process. According to board policy 6143, in order for a course to have dual enrollment credit from PAUSD, it must be approved by the PAUSD board, the University California Office of the President, and aligned with community college standards. Currently, multivariable calculus meets none of these, and therefore cannot be offered as a dual enrollment or dual credit class by the PAUSD. Secondly, I've heard concerns from the community about offering and wanting to offer multivariable calculus during the school day. That is impossible, because according to Ed Code 76004, CCAP classes can be closed, while non-CCAP classes such as multivariable calculus cannot. mean that we'd be allowing people from community college classes not enrolled PAUSD on campus. Thank you.
Thank you, Julian. Lars Johnson, Michael Strohecker, Jennifer Canerva.
Good evening. I'd like to take a moment to speak about bullying at PAUSD. And I would like to speak out against bullying at PAUSD, more specifically about the incredible amount of vitriol directed at our superintendent and the board. My family is jumping to misguided conclusions based on limited information and narrow objectives. This happens online and in person in these forums all the time, way too often. If this would be students acting out during school hours, the principal would reach out to the parents to encourage them to discuss acceptable forms of civil discourse with their children. Unfortunately, in this case, it is the parents that are the bullies. We all want what's best for our students and staff. Let's begin by behaving like the role models our children need more than anything. Thank you.
Michael Strohecker, Jennifer Canerva, Dave Degler.
I'm the mother of an Ohlone fifth grader who's been in room 19 since kindergarten. I'm here to state that there's now a federal civil rights investigation pending in our district over the room 19 closure. Although my son is graduating, I'm committed to do the right thing and advocate for him, other room 19 kids, and those who come after. My son loves room 19. He also spends 85% of his day in gen ed with his close childhood friends. They plan to be college roommates someday. The closure implies that children with disabilities can be forced to change schools at any time, no matter their friendships, their successes, or how much their school identity means to them. This is a civil rights issue. We tried, but our request for reconsideration and basic due process and transparency went unanswered. We tried again. When OCR accepted the case, we asked for mediation, thinking the district would embrace ethical governance, but mediation failed. And now as the school year ends, a long OCR investigation begins.
Thank you.
It's the last thing we wanted.
Can I just ask you a question? I'm sorry that I did not keep track of this. I called Michael Strohecker next, right? Are you Jennifer or are you?
I'm Jennifer.
You're Jennifer. Okay, you're Jennifer. So Michael, if you're on Zoom, I'm sorry if we skipped you. Thank you, Jennifer. And and you can send the rest of your comments to board@pausd.org. So Michael Strohecker, are you on Zoom or in person? No, you don't see? Okay, I will not cross him out. I will move on. Dave Degler, then Wendy Stratton, then Harvey Newland.
Hi everyone, I'm Dave Degler. I'm the instructional lead of math at Gunn High School. I do support the idea that these students brought up of taking multivariable calculus if they've already completed our math sequence to pursue upper level courses through one of our community colleges. These classes have historically been offered after school and in person on one of our campuses and have worked out well. However, I encourage them first to consider our robust STEM electives we already offer on campus, such as Computer Science Capstone, AAR, where they can do a research paper on mathematics, statistics, robotics. Taking these electives would make students more well-rounded in STEM, something elite universities have told us they value. These same universities tell us that they encourage students to take the most challenging math courses offered in our district, and that's why I don't support adding multivariable calculus to our official math pathway and teaching it during the school day. Doing so would essentially add a 5th year of math to our existing 4-year pathway, and that would mean the only way to reach the top would be to skip a year of math. This is not equitable, as many of our students don't have the access to tutors and outside support. We're often required to skip a year of math.
Thank you, Mr. Degler.
It's also not good for student wellness, as my Gunn colleagues will talk about.
Send any additional comments to board@pausd.org. Wendy Stratton, Harvey Newland, David Leftwich.
Good evening. I'm Wendy Stratton, principal of Gunn High School, along with Assistant Principal Harvey Newland. We will be sharing the full statement of Gunn lead counselor David Leftwich. What follows will be his words in the first person, and they do represent the entire PAUSD secondary counseling community. I'm here tonight to share with you why counselors have concerns about making multivariable calculus a district course. We come to everything we do with the well-being of the student and the consideration of the entire student body first and foremost in our concerns. The problem here isn't MVC. The problem, as it often is college admissions. STEM majors have become exceedingly selective, and our students and families are looking for more and more ways to differentiate their students academically. This is anxiety producing, and I empathize with that. But the problem can't be solved using the old and simplistic methodology, which is to build a high-weighted GPA and show the highest level of rigor. I'm going to pass it on to Harvey Newland.
Thank you. And I'm noticing that our microphone seems super low. I feel like everyone's like leaning over. Thank you for picking it up more. But I'm sorry. Okay, we'll see how it goes from here.
Thanks. Harvey Newland, Assistant Principal at Gunn. We're in a new age of admissions, and it will continue to change. Universities are driving admissions processes, and it's our responsibility to acknowledge the new standards and adjust appropriately. The most prestigious universities in our nation are not shy about telling you what they want to see, and it isn't simply more and higher level studies. They're espousing a holistic approach, looking for examples of character, authentic exploration of interests, positive and genuine involvement in communities that they are a part of. They're looking for modesty, empathy, resiliency, courage, honesty, and more. It's about admitting people based on their academics and also their personal capacities. If Palo Alto Unified keeps their qualities and values at the center of the curricula and extracurriculars it builds, you'll be looking at improved post-graduation outcomes for all students. But those who argue for a college-level math course geared toward math-centered majors to be part of the general math sequence don't argue for all students. We are talking about 30-some-odd students for whom this debate is relevant, and yet it is taking up the very resources and energies that should be directed to outcomes for all students.
You can send us more comments. David Lefwich, and I realize I'm not saying the next names. The next names are David, then Edith Cohen, and then if Michael Strohacker's on here, we'll call him.
Thank you. So what happens if we make this course a part of our offerings, weighted grade and all? It becomes a new target for families using the same old methodology previously mentioned. The students will continue to suffer in anxiety. They'll have growing sense of shame and inadequacy because of it. We see it all the time, and while academic competition may be a necessary reality, it is also it is our most important charge to be balanced in how we present and engage students in that environment and how we shepherd them through it. I'm asking you today to help counselors, teachers, principals, and the district to change the narrative around college acceptance, build up students, their personal qualities, their perspectives for the future, and they can't go wrong. Promote an Ivy League or bust mentality, and you'll bust a lot of kids. Please keep MVC an off-campus option for the handful of students for which it is appropriate. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Edith Cohen, and then we'll see if Michael Strohacker's here. Then Jane Hayes.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so dear leadership, I'm very proud of the students that spoke today. So I'm calling you for a full stop on this toxicity towards our math students. These intentionally obstructive policies, questioning their choices, their lived experiences, silencing them, amplifying biases against them. This misinformation and toxicity trickle down to the community and the district. These actions hinder student learning, but the toxicity hits their souls, which is worse. So just an example, yesterday, 3 6th grade girls sat for lunch at one of our middle schools. The girls were solving math problems and chatting about a placement test scheduled for that afternoon. By your policy, the test is designed to fail the majority of qualified students, but is still their only path to learn math at school next year. A teacher approached them and said, girls, I really don't understand this. Why do you want to skip your grades so much? It's your parents pushing you to do it, right?
Thank you. Michael Strohacker, and if not, Jane Hayes is next. You see him there? Okay, Jane Hayes, and then Lori Kaniva.
Hi, this is Jane Hayes. I just wanted to quickly speak to the repeated inclusion of the CAC chairperson as a representative on several ad hoc committees to the exclusion of other SPED parents. The district relies solely on the CAC as the voice for parents of students with disabilities in the district. The Palo Alto Community Advisory Committee is not a member group and does not represent the majority of families with students with disabilities in the district. In fact, the CAC often misrepresents the opinions of various families in the district, the most recent being the use of the CAC as representing the blessing of families for the switch away for the MOD severe program families at Ohlone and Escondido. Thank you.
Thank you. Lori Kaniva, and then Liz Crandell, and Yaroslava Krikovan.
Hi, I'm Lori. As you are aware, the United States Department of Education Office of Civil Rights, OCR, has opened an investigation into whether, beginning in the 2023 school year, students with moderate to severe disabilities will be excluded from and denied the benefits of the district's choice school due to the district's decision to eliminate the moderate to severe disabilities program from Ohlone and Escondido. We believe the OCR investigation will find the classroom closures are discriminatory and illegal under federal law. As you know, attorneys representing families in Ohlone Room 19 have sent a letter asking the district to leave Room 19 open during the duration of OCR's federal investigation and until the complaint is resolved. We urge the district to keep the classroom open to avoid severe disruption to these most vulnerable children. Thank you.
Thank you. Liz Crandall, Yaroslava, Emily Lee.
Good evening. My name is Liz Crandall. I started working at Ohlone SPED in 2008, and I retired there in Can
you get close to the microphone so we can hear you?
And I retired from Ohlone in 2021. In the short time I had started there, I developed great respect for teacher Hannah Miller and her burgeoning program. I believe deeply in the social, emotional, and project-based learning and the inclusivity of Ohlone. Problem is, farm gave our students opportunities to plant, pick vegetables, and learn how to be around the animals. Believe it or not, watching chickens had calming effect for many of our MOD severe students. The district has decided that in the best interest of the children, and because teachers want this, Room 19 will be moved to Nixon. When will you quit lying to parents, teachers, and the public?
You can send us your comments at Board of PAUSD. Yaroslava, and do you mind pronouncing your name for me? Because I feel like I mess it up every time.
Yaroslava.
Thank you.
Closure of the Ohlone classroom prior to the 2023 school year will result in a highly disruptive transfer and transitioning of vulnerable disabled children to a brand new school. Those children would then need to transfer and transition back to Ohlone within the span of a few months if the district's closure is found unlawful. Not only would the transfer of children to Nixon be traumatic for children and their families, it is premature and inappropriate because the closure of Room 19 very likely discriminates against children with moderate to severe disabilities. Thank you.
Thank you. Emily Lee, Rowena Chu, Elizabeth Doxey.
The district's actions have lasting consequences on the life trajectories of real students. Elementary education is a critical time in a child's life. If the district forces Ohlone Room 19 students to transition between schools twice in the span of a few months, this will not only disrupt their routines and deprive them of educational stability, it will also derail their education and cause these students, all of whom have thrived in the stable environment that Ohlone provides, to significantly regress. Students with moderate to severe disabilities find transitions incredibly difficult. Finally, keeping these kids out of school where they've thrived and where they feel they belong is not a question of parent preference. It is a question of basic human decency and civil rights. Thank you.
Thank you. Rowena Chu, Elizabeth Doxey, Purnima Gadam.
Hi, I'm Rowena Chu, continuing the discussion on Ohlone.
According to the board's bylaws, the board has been elected by the community to provide leadership and citizen oversight of the district and has a duty to ensure that the district is responsive to the community's values, benefits, and priorities. Under board policy, the board itself has committed to non-discrimination, stating that the Board of Education is committed to equal opportunity for all individuals in education. District programs, activities, and practices should be free from discrimination. Therefore, we ask that the board exercise appropriate oversight over the OCR investigation and take the allegations seriously in the light of the board's promise to provide citizen oversight, especially when the district engages in practices that undermine the board's commitment to keep district programs free from discrimination. Thank you.
Thank you. Elizabeth Doxey, Purnima Gadam, Jay Gluckman.
My name is Elizabeth Doxey. For the past 9 years, I have had the privilege of working with the very special students in Ohlony's Mod Severe Learning Center. I am here to remind the board that the district has an obligation as a flagship educational institution to ensure the well-being of all its students, including Ohlony's Room 19 students with Mod Severe disabilities. Particularly because the district's actions are very likely unlawful, it is incumbent upon the district to keep its promise to prioritize the, quote, mental health and wellness of Room 19 students in accordance with the PAUSD promise. Accordingly, we request that the district keep its promise to all students and keep Ohlony's Room 19 open until the conclusion of the OCR investigation. On behalf of all students, thank you.
Thank you. Purnima Gadam, Jay Gluckman, Jimmy Young.
We understand that the board is looking into the choice schools and programs across the district. We welcome the opportunity to expand choice so that all types of learners in our district have an opportunity to access the unique benefits of our choice schools. Whatever the board or district proposes to do, it should seek input from parents, teachers, and community stakeholders in a transparent, visible manner. Any proposal should be clearly outlined and shared widely so that stakeholders have an opportunity to understand the content and impact of such a proposal and provide diverse input.
Thank you. Jay Gluckman, Ginny No, Stephen Davis. No, Jay Gluckman. Okay, we will pass Jay Gluckman. Ginny No, Stephen Davis, Akasha Ardaya.
I was on the Choice Program Ad Hoc Committee and was surprised to see the proposal to have staff advise on prioritizing neighborhood children for spots at choice programs. This was not my understanding of our recommendations, and I object to it. This would be inequitable to children not in those neighborhoods, including the kids in the mobile home park. Given the rumors and now OCR investigation, is this neighborhood proposal linked to those controversies? That investigation would go away if Ohlony was turned into a neighborhood school, a very sinister but possible twist to the whole story. Second, I'm concerned about the district's handling of violence on campus. PAUSD teachers have been advised not to intervene in fights. They're to push a panic button, evacuate, and essentially abandon the situation. I'm not demanding teachers intervene. There are times when teachers are willing and able to do so, and they should not have to worry about being a scapegoat if something goes wrong or fear of speaking out. Teachers should not be forced to choose between saving a child and saving their job. And I was asked to make sure that I am representing myself as an individual, and I am not here as any type of PTA representative. Actually, I wasn't asked, I was told.
Stephen Davis, Akasha, and Prabia Gupta.
We've had a lot of ad hoc committees on all sorts of things. You know what we didn't have an ad hoc committee on? The complete restructuring of the special ed program. We've gone from we're going from 7 mod severe schools to 5. As you all hear from me regularly, the performance of our special ed kids are getting notably worse. The gap is widening between our special ed kids and our general ed kids by virtually every metric. Half of our suspensions are students with disabilities. A substantial number of our chronic absenteeism and growing number of our absentees are students with disabilities. It's time for actually including the community, You've got this thing called an ad hoc committee. We need one. Thank you.
Thank you. Akshaya, Prabia, and Gail McDowell. I said Akshaya.
Hello, everyone. This is Akshaya. I have a special needs child who'll start kindergarten only, so I'm really looking forward to it. And I have the pleasure of working with Amanda and the rest of the CAC team. So my sincere request is to, help us, especially the new parents, understand how the ad hoc committee selection works, because we really want to do the right thing. We want to bring our expertise and experience to do the best for the children, and no strings attached. So if we know what you're looking for, or if we could just, like, for example, I served on the Fremont Unified School District's board for 3 years. I have a special needs child, and I'm very passionate towards doing the right thing and bringing all that expertise here. I have a business degree from Wharton. I was a math Olympiad kid myself. I'm very passionate towards solving the right problem. So when you can have parents like me and others who want to do the right thing, just help us understand how to get into the right committees or other avenues. Thank you.
Thank you. Probably what next before Gail is Prabia Gupta. There she is. And then Gail McDowell, and then Nicole Chuang.
Thank you. I'm the parent of a child with special needs who attends Barron Park Elementary, and I'm here to actually support and stand in solidarity with my fellow parents from Ohlone. This is not an issue about a specific school. It's a problematic, opaque, and exclusionary process that is being followed by the Special Education Department in deciding where programs should be structured, cited, and consolidated. I take issue with the fact that these decisions are being made without any input from the parents, who are very key stakeholders. The response from the school district about parents' preferences is frankly very disrespectful to the parents who are living through the experience of watching their child's school experience being uprooted. I will also say that if you're going to be flip-flopping between schools all the time, it shows that there is really not an intention to have sustained investment, building up a program that is able to retain and train staff and eventually be an asset for the community. So we cannot treat this as a fungible asset which can just be moved around at will.
Thank
and
you.
I hope we will reconsider this discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gail McDowell, Nicole Chuang, Rebecca Eisenberg.
Looking out into this incredibly packed audience, I am struck by how much our community is hurting. And I'm asking the board, and particularly our superintendent, to listen and lead with empathy. We have teachers who are struggling. They already spoke out about that. We have special ed families whose kids have been ripped out of their schools and moved around like they're just widgets in a factory. We have all these incredible students who love math and are begging just to be able to learn and be challenged. We have, I'm hearing online about a family who was bumped from their neighborhood school, put in a different school, and then after a year, torn out, and then put back in the neighborhood school. Who is any of this serving? So I'm asking the board and our superintendent to please put empathy in children first. Thank you.
Nicole Chuang, Rebecca Eisenberg, Mathilde Lenore.
I've spoken in past board meetings about the factions in our district. I truly believe that all sides of all the issues are operating with good intent and genuinely want what they think is best for students. Obviously, with a district of almost 11,000 students with so many varying needs, talents, interests, and goals, people are going to disagree about what is best and what the priorities should be. This is a given, and I'm grateful that so many people care so much. But I feel compelled to remind everyone that we are actually on the same team. Finger-pointing, name-calling, conspiracy theories do not serve our children and are toxic to our community. Open forum is a one-way exercise, as is written communication from the district. I would like to ask that principal coffees at all school sites be used to facilitate smaller, open discussions to hear concerns, answer questions, and clear up factual misunderstandings. But most of all, the demand I'm making to our community at large is that name-calling and finger-pointing at students stop immediately. It is simply unacceptable.
Thank you. Rebecca Eisenberg, Mathilde Lenoir, and I think That's it.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Eisenberg. Although I serve as your elected representative on the Water District, I speak in my personal capacity as a parent of 2 Palo Alto School District students, one of whom was terribly mistreated and deprived of an IEP despite her autism until Yolanda Conaway joined the district, and for that I'm very grateful. Although most of the administration who abused my daughter back then were fired, largely due to their outrageous lies and other illegal conduct in violation of the rights of girls and women pursuant to Title IX, replacement in top leadership has actually not improved things in that line and may have made things worse. Back then, the Department of Justice found this district an egregious, I quote, violation of civil rights laws back then. And even though this district is still bound by the consent decree it signed with the US DOJ, the lies and hostility towards teachers, parents, and students continue. Instead of increasing legal protections, the district terminated both the general counsel and the Title IX administrator,
Thank you, Ms. Eisenberg.
both of whom are female, and replaced them with men. That creates trauma.
Mathilde Lenoir.
Thank you. I think you need to replace the superintendent. Thank you.
And, okay, and there's after this next commenter is just someone that says KK. And then Daniel Nguyen, I don't know where you wanted to talk. Did I skip you for consent calendar? Are you here? Oh, okay, thanks. Sorry, it's the next thing.
Good evening. I'm talking today as a parent and a French teacher in this district. My name is Mathilde Lenoir. I have worked at Green Middle School, Fletcher Middle School, and Gunn High School. I want to alert the board about a situation of French learning in the district. What it feels like is the district is currently squandering a strong, effective, and popular program in the name of budget reductions. Fletcher Middle contemplated eliminating French by stopping to offer the beginner class starting next school year. The Fletcher administration ended up backtracking on this, and now it's Gunn that is contemplating not offering French 1 next year, effectively punishing the students who failed to start learning French in middle school. The district's efforts seem to be aimed at reducing this program to the bone instead of responding adequately to the community's needs. World languages are important. The French program is a historical asset at Gunn. Students and their families should not have to suffer an impoverishment of their school's offering.
Thank you, Ms.
My question
Lenoir.
is, does the board intend to defend student choice of
Please
electives
send us the
and
rest of
world
your
languages?
comments to board@pausd.org. Last comment is KK. Is there a KK in the house? Oh, it says on Zoom. Is there a KK on Zoom? Awesome. Go ahead. They're muted. KK, you have to unmute if you are muted, and we will start your timer when we hear you. Okay, I'm going to make one last ditch effort to go back to way at the top. Who was it? Michael Stroker, who was going to be on Zoom. Nope. Okay, we'll try one more time with KK. Okay. All right. I want to thank everyone for coming and making our 40 or so open forum comments. We appreciate the input, and I think most of you know that we can't comment on things that aren't agendized, so we can't comment right now, but if you write to us, we will respond. Thank you. Yep.
Thank you. As President DeBrienza said, we can't respond to the specifics of anything, but I really do appreciate, we had teachers, we had parents, we had students, we had community members all here in fairly large numbers, and that's, that's especially in mid-May, that's pretty unusual. And so I think it's, it's a good message for us, and I think we heard I'm really glad so many people commented, and I know all of us sitting up here are going to take those comments quite seriously, so thank you.
Okay. Moving on to the consent calendar. Before we look at the consent calendar, I see that we have a comment from Daniel Nguyen. So I'm not going to skip you. This could be the one comment thing I do, the one item I get comments right on. Mr. Nguyen, if you want to come on up and make your comment, you will get 2 minutes. Yeah.
It's unfortunate it took a teacher suffering an unimaginable, catastrophic loss to get the district's attention about staff and student safety. But now that we have your attention, the district must unequivocally declare it has zero tolerance for violence by committing to pass policies that remove anyone who attacks a staff member or student. That is a promise worth making. The community is watching, and so are we.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the consent calendar? Can I get a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second. Okay. Student board reps on the consent calendar? She moved, he seconded consent calendar. Student board reps, consent calendar? Do you, for voting? You're like, I'm glad you have no comments, but, sorry.
Aye.
Aye, sorry about that. Board colleagues, all those in favor of the consent calendar? Aye. Okay, thank you. Moving on to action items, 5A, Dr. Austin?
Yes, Mr. Holmes' item, he's here with us.
Good evening, Board. Tonight I bring to you the authorization for the selection of the lease-leaseback contractor for the Hoover Elementary School project, and that would be XL Construction. We had a advertised lease-leaseback process. We had 4 applicants. Ultimately, XL was the only submitted applicant, and we interviewed them. They're also the contractor that is part of the sole source component of the project, which is the TimberQuest project. The selection of a lease-leaseback contractor is a little bit unusual, or it's a little bit atypical than the design bid build process we normally do. And there are some careful procedures we need to follow per the California Public Contract Code. And so the RFQ for this and the ultimate contract was collaborated and written with DWK, our attorneys for the bond program, and they will negotiate the lease, the entire contract with XL when we ultimately enter into that contract. So this is just the selection of them for recognizing them as the selected contractor in the selection process. We will bring the lease contract to you at a later date, and ultimately the overall price when the pricing is worked out at a later date as well. Tentatively, we're looking to start construction in January of next year on this project, and we've already started talking to them as part of their proposal about their schedule plans.
Okay, thank you. Colleagues, any questions? Yep, Mr. Collins.
Thank you. Thank you for that report. As you guys know, I mean, and I think some other people know, there's been a lot of controversy around these, as you alluded to, and in particular, I think the California Supreme Court just recently settled a long-running dispute in Fresno that found that the school district had acted inappropriately in a lease-leaseback situation, and there have been other cases as well. So I just wanted to double check. You guys are obviously familiar with the Fresno case.
Yes.
I'm sure your lawyers are all too familiar with it. And that we're not going to run into any issues because this is relatively new law. Fresno thought they had a defensible position, and the court told them that they didn't. So are we in the clear in terms of those issues?
Yes, the main outcome of that law is you have to have a verifiable lease component of the project. We've discussed already with DWK about that component and some of the resulting processes that attorneys are doing as a result of the Davis decision, and they are going to be building that contract to meet the requirements of the Davis court decision.
Okay, any other questions, comments?
If not, I'll make a motion.
Students, anything? Okay, go for your motion.
I move that we authorize the leaseback contractor for Hoover as presented.
Second.
Okay, any questions, comments? No. Student board rep, preferential vote.
Aye.
Aye. Colleagues, all those in favor?
Aye.
I think you two just took your last vote as board reps.
Thank you very much.
Now we're going to discussion. Thank you, Mr. Holm. I'd come to you next, but I think that was your last one. Okay, discussion items. PAUSD promise.
Yeah, before I turn this over to Dr. Che, the idea is that we want to focus on one area that had a couple revisions and something that we feel pretty excited about with the report card. And this would be the last kind of time for some feedback, and we bring it back at the next meeting for final approval. It's now been before you. I believe this is the third time. Okay. Dr. Che.
Thank you. To finalize the promise goal for next year, we grouped the goals within each section to identify gaps and areas that require further attention. By taking a holistic approach, the goals were formalized in a comprehensive manner. That being said, we're navigating a rapidly changing world where in some cases, we're trying to create a baseline based on anticipated projection. For example, in the field of technology, researchers are encountering situations where new findings are emerging as they are trying to publish their latest discoveries. We just hosted our Career Pathway Showcase where all 5 secondary sites participated. While educators are discussing whether to embrace artificial intelligence or not, our students have already harnessed AI tools to create products that were showcased last Friday. Looking to the future, there are 3 key components to consider. First, how we teach students to use the tools effectively. Second, safe and ethical implications of using the tools. Lastly, we all have been focusing on how to use the tools, but we also need to consider what these tools cannot do because these are skills that can become highly desirable in the future. For instance, AI cannot reflect and think outside a box. That's because it's operated based on the pre-fed data. Therefore, skills like creativity will likely to become more desirable, and we need to help students cultivate these skills. We also have an industry advisory committee that works as a bridge between the district and industry partners to help prepare students for the real world and future. One of the important skills that we're looking for is ability for students to fail forward with resilience. With automation and new technologies, students are likely to be engaged in a workplace that requires them to embrace challenges and adapt to changes. To prepare students for the future, it is critical that we meet them where they are and offer support with an equity lens. Resilience is a relative to the starting point of an individual student. Excellence aspect of promise.
Okay. As you know, I've spoken in our SWIFT report card in the thinking about transfer, and I'm proud to say that we have significant progress around equity, but do understand that we have work to do in that area. Started to think about the SWIFT plan. We knew there would be some points of evolution plan as we grew in our community to look through an equity lens and understood better what the opportunities and threats are in our district so that we can tackle those to move the needle on equity. And part of that challenge was really unpacking perception that equity came out of excellence. And so to reaffirm today, before I got into specifics about the plan, that we view equity as excellent, and we cannot have equity without it, and vice versa. So as we started to reflect on the plan, one of the things that we hoped to accomplish was to separate what was essentially our core goal for equity and what were the drivers of equity. So we have scaled down this plan so that we are truly focused on the outcomes of equity rather than the inputs. The goals that you'll see the plan, and you've probably had some time to look at already, is really about looking at the achievement outcomes of all of our students as well as the experiential outcomes for students. So those are the 2 major goals that are measured. But our drivers are really what's going to create that transformation and that change. So we've identified these drivers, which you may remember being referred to as domains. But we are thinking about these things are those areas of pursuit that we can ensure that we are addressing so that our progress is seen in those particular areas and it leads to those outcomes that we're looking for. So those domains are in curriculum and instruction, school climate, student supports, professional learning, school and family and community partnerships and engagement, and district operations. We have honed the specific interventions and inputs to those particular areas, to those areas that we know will move the needle on equity. So now you won't see a bucket list of 100 things in the SWIFT plan. We have reduced a 16-page plan to literally a 4-page plan. And that'll make it easily accessible to our public. It will make it easier for us to track how we are doing on these particular goals. And it will also ensure that we are really narrowing our focus on key areas so that we can all kind of go along the pathway, maybe not at the same pace, but at least with the same, mind of thinking around the work. So as we look at this, these particular inputs, we thought about how can we best represent this work in our SWIFT report card, which follows from the SWIFT plan. So in a moment, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Moore to talk about what shifts we've made in our presentation of the SWIFT data so that the board can be more aware, essentially, of whether we're making progress or not, and removing some of the gray areas in terms of what groups are we really focusing on and how are we truly measuring progress. So I'll turn it over to Derek to discuss that.
All right, thanks. I want to talk through this version of our SWIFT report card. First, I want to point out we're looking at the same data. There's not a new data set we're talking about. We're still talking about the same data. And hopefully it's a little bit easier to comprehend. We've moved from 279 data points on the other one to 32 on this one. So hopefully that in itself is a good improvement. And we were also focused on change from the previous year. Which is why when we look at some of our climate data, we are seeing it as blue and no change because we are in year one of that. So by definition, there would be no change. And looking at the academic and chronic absenteeism data on this report card, this can and will be presented in the future in the fall because we will have that data available to us in the fall.
Thank you. Okay, colleagues, this is again up for discussion. We've discussed it a bunch, but comments, questions? Nope. Okay.
Sure.
Either way. Okay, go ahead.
Well, thank you for that. I think that, and having been involved in the discussions in the committee, I won't belabor the point, but I do think distilling down the data and having this cleaner representation of data is super important, not just for board members, but also community members who, most community members won't have the time to go through hundreds of data points. And, in terms of, I've always seen a part of our equity work is also selling the equity work to our community members who may not see the importance of it. And so doing that, it's really important to have crisp visuals and clear data that's visually appealing and easily digestible. So this is great. The one question I had was if we can have a key on the report card, specifically because chronic absenteeism was a little confusing because I know it's a little bit of an inverse situation. So I get that red is not good. and yet, chronic absenteeism going down would be a good thing. So a clarification for that piece, maybe some sort of key. That's all.
Yes, I did it again. I'm like trying to count comments and everything, and we have comments. We have 11 comments, which I believe. Yeah, you could. Thanks. Which gives us a minute and a half each person. So I will call. Looks like some are on Zoom, some are in person. Edith Cohen, Rana Maposa, Eileen Kim.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So in the spirit of the story, The Emperor's New Clothes, the promise should be called out for what it is, a word soup with statistically flawed progress indicators that lost sight of what matters most. Frenzied with lowering the ceiling, our leadership disregards the 70% of our disadvantaged students that drop off the floor of meeting minimum standards in math. Those that drop off early do not recover and are denied an important path to social mobility. So a glaring omission in the promise is a coherent goal for math achievement. Each student needs to be promised a year of growth every year, starting early elementary. So now, sadly, at the promise discussion last board meeting, some leadership comments seemed tone deaf. The superintendent declared that there is no need for additional goals of academic growth. Instead, the big picture is to silence students and parents, educating them to be happy with whatever is handed down. The board vice president dismissed the need to focus on the small things described as which I assume is promised academic achievement to our students that need it most. The big picture, apparently, there is to address toxic stress. So I think we are diverging here from what is important and go back to the drawing board.
Thank
you.
Ron. Rana Maposa, Eileen Kim, Emily Lee.
My name is Rana. My son is a student at Ohlone who is in the Mod to Severe Special Education Program. For students like my son, the PAUSD promise mental health, wellness, equity, excellence, focus on special education and inclusion, though eloquently stated, is a hollow promise. This is what the closure of Room 19 promises him instead. He does not belong to a school. He belongs to a program that just happens to be at XYZ school. He never belonged at Ohlone, and he does not belong at Nixon either. The connections that he makes at whatever school he happens to be tossed at are temporal at best. He will never know what it is to have a sense of true belonging. He will never develop school spirit. This is an injustice. Human beings, and children in particular, desire strong social ties and value acceptance, care, and support from others. In school, a sense of belonging gives students feelings of security, identity, community, which in turn support academic, psychological, and social development. Studies show that children who feel that they are part of the school community are likely to perform better academically and more motivated. Students with strong and rewarding social ties at school are less likely to drop out of school or engage in substance abuse and truancy. Furthermore, researchers find that an absence of feeling of connectedness in school is an antecedent of depression among adolescents and children. PAUSD is clearly setting my son for failure.
Please send the rest of your comments to Board of PAUSD. Eileen Kim, Emily Lee, Gail McDowell. Eileen Kim? Oh, over Zoom.
Hi. Recently, our superintendent accused our students who had the courage to show up and participate and advocate in board meeting as falsely claiming victimhood and not being taught to be resilient by their parents. Resilience is the ability to bounce back from adversity. I would say dealing with the pandemic, isolating socially at home, adapting to online learning, and still post-pandemic showing up at school with a passion for learning and life is resilience, especially this cohort. Let's not forget that. When dissenting voices are silenced and the democratic process of discourse and disagreement is labeled as seeing yourself as a victim and not lifting up others, this is a huge red flag. Our district is on a quick and slippery slope towards becoming a top-down autocratic district, and we should all be very scared at the direction our district is going. Thank you.
Thank you. Emily Lee, Gail McDowell, Stephen Davis.
Hi again. My name is Emily, and my child is in the Mod Severe classroom at Ohlone. As part of the PAUSD Promise Strategy, the district plans to track inclusion and sense of belonging, recognizing that these are key performance indicators of equity and excellence. But how can our students with disabilities feel like they belong to a school if, unlike their non-disabled peers, they are unable to remain at the same school during their formative early years and are at risk of being shuffled to different schools across town according to the district's plans, which seem to change from year to year? The promise also seeks to cultivate positive school environments that promote high levels of connection, resilience, and overall well-being. Removing disabled students from schools under the belief that they do not have the right to stay at a particular school runs counter to the district's goals of promoting well-being and high levels of connection. Board members and district leadership, I ask you to keep your promise and give our children the best opportunity for inclusion and belonging by letting them stay at the same school in which they have thrived. Thank you.
Thank you. Gail McDowell, Stephen Davis, Satomi Akazaki.
I taught college in two different universities actually for several years. And the most important thing I was teaching my students wasn't so much the computer science or the math, it was resilience. It was the ability to see a hard problem, work really hard, work independently, work with others, work by online resources, whatever it is, to work to solve problems. And I was, resilience is an amazing thing, but I was concerned with our superintendent's comments last board meeting, linking families, quote unquote, speaking up with disproportionate responses with a lack of resilience. These families here today advocating for themselves, for their children, for their families, for their teachers, these are not families who lack resilience. These are families who absolutely possess resilience. So whether the board puts resilience into the PAUSD promise or not, either way seems pretty reasonable, though I love resilience as a thing. But I hope that it is clear that if you do put it in there, you use resilience as not a way to silence voices, but a way of lifting them up. Thank you.
Stephen Davis, Satomi Okazaki, Rowena Chu.
We moved here 2 years ago substantially because Palo Alto, by the numbers, is the best school district for students with disabilities in the Bay Area, and actually one of the best probably in California. Unfortunately, that standard is very low. In my previous school district, in the, 4 years we were there, we were shifted around schools 3 times. Not only was it disruptive to my son, it was disruptive to our family because we are part of the community. I will say a critical part of my community has been my fellow special ed parents. When my kid gets moved, I am all of a sudden disconnected from the people who are my community, my support. That is also the support for my son. The arbitrary collapse, was it from 7 schools to 5 schools of our Mod Severe program, why? You all are fighting doing split classes for second, first, and whatever for other kids, yet no thought, no ad hoc committee, no serious discussion, no inclusion of the public in a massive shrinkage of our segregated special ed program. Time to do something.
Satomi Okazaki, Rowena Chu, Lillian Lee.
Thank you to the board. We wanted to share a letter to the editor that was recently published in the Daily Post. Speaking up is a core part of democracy. Accepting others who speak up is a core part of any public leader. We were alarmed to hear Palo Alto School Superintendent Don Austin say at the May 8th board meeting that students and parents who have advocated for specialized education students, for appropriate math placement, for reinstatement of multivariable calculus, for buses, for Stanford West families with extensive commutes, for investing in choice programs, lack resilience. Austin said, "We don't need another academic goal, but we do need goals around resiliency. Disproportionate responses to news we don't like is a problem. And I think we are teaching our kids some really, really bad things." The next version of the promise will not only have resiliency goals for our students, we will have them for staff members and for our parents. For all the things that are really amazing about this district, resiliency is a whole.
Rowena Chu, Lillian Lee, Elizabeth on Zoom.
I'm Rowena Chu. Advocacy is how we affect change, ensure legal compliance, and protect victims. Conflating advocacy with a lack of resilience silences students and parents. It is no surprise that families who approach the district often walk away feeling bullied and shamed.
Even worse,
Austin is proposing to codify this twisted version of resilience into the PAUSD promise. Resilience is a wonderful thing, and so is advocacy. Silencing concerned students, parents, and staff is not. Austin must go. We need to bring back transparency, collaboration, and respect. The Palo Alto schools need a change. Yaroslava Krivokan, Rowena Chu, Jen Chu, Rochelle Mondino, Jennifer Canova, Emily Lee, Rana Maposa, and Christina Smith, PAUSD parents. Thank you.
Thank you. Elizabeth on Zoom? Not there. Okay, we'll keep that open. Akshaya, again. Here we go. And I think we'll just try for Elizabeth again, and that's it for this.
Hi, everyone. I wanted to just address my opinion on room 19. I don't have a child in room 19. I'm just getting to know parents over the last year. I'm getting to know the farm. I'm getting to know Ohlone inclusion, everything. And I'm also on the journey of discovering what disability is because my son is autistic on the spectrum. And the lovely parents here in the community here, I had the pleasure to know all. The one observation I have, I'm a data person, so the one observation that I had was that people like my son, their mental health goes up every time they're at the farm. They have a sense of belonging. That school has something really special. And he even when he was completely nonverbal, he's speaking now thanks to, good schools like the Greendale. But even when he was nonverbal, I could see the light in his eyes. And I heard the parents of neurotypical kids and same parents who had kids in room 19. Now, if the sibling goes away, what happens to them? Should they pull them out? Should they move schools? And it's a mental health issue more than anything. And I don't think it's fair for the parents or the siblings or the students. So if there's any way to keep them in Ohlone and honor that, for the students who are already there and get services, it would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Elizabeth on Zoom? Okay, that is it. So board colleague comments. Ms. Siegel.
I have two separate comments. The first is about the SWIFT plan report. I'm glad that we're analyzing and receiving this data. These are areas that we all want to work on. I'm glad it's clear and targeted, as are the outcome goals and measures. I wonder for just one part, I wonder if the wording would be clear if red was labeled as a decline versus no progress, just to make it clear that it is a decline. And my other question would be to see it clearly labeled year to year so we can see progress year to year. Thank you for your work with that, and thank you so much for your work with the promise. And I want to thank the staff, especially for the inclusion of the word resilience. The dialogue about this word or concept or quality isn't always simple. What is resilience and how is it developed? The dictionary defines it as the capacity to withstand or to recover quickly from difficulties. I agree that this trait helps humans thrive. It is a quality that is essential to overcome life's myriad obstacles. I would add that being resilient does not occur in a vacuum. I think that a person first needs to feel in control of or true to one's faith or principles, and this requires self-advocacy. When I taught high school English, we examined in our novels whether resilience is more than just accepting and coping with change, but also advocating for what you believe is right or just, as resilience often follows acts of respectful advocacy when the issue at hand goes against one's integrity. Increasingly, I'm hearing from a variety of parents and students that they want to be entrusted, to be included in the decision-making process that meets their needs and treated with empathy and compassion. I believe that students and parents can best demonstrate resilience when there's partnership, that their voices are being heard, that there is student choice and voice in their own education. Therefore, I would like to see a reference to respectful advocacy added to the promise. Under the traits for fostering resilience, I am happy to see key strategies for fostering resilience, and I would like to add the word community after the word work. For collaboration to be embraced, it needs to be cultivated. Collaboration with students and parents is key. Ad hoc committees are a great start, but I wonder if we can improve representation so that groups that would be impacted are provided with the opportunity to be included, and we increase the way we provide communication about this opportunity so that more parents are aware. Perhaps we could include a reference to respectful advocacy as a healthy coping mechanism. I believe that respectful advocacy ensures that civil dialogue is encouraged, and I'm very grateful that Zoom allows for a greater range of thought and representation. The students and parents and teachers who speak during open forum, when done respectfully and courteously, to me, that is an example of a resilient behavior. I hope to continue to hear from the community, including our parents, teachers, and especially our students and our historically underrepresented stakeholders. That is all.
Thanks. Mr. Darp, I already called on you before public comment. Anything else? No. Okay. Ms. Ledermark?
Yes. Okay. So in general, I agree with everything you said, Ms. Conway. I think the revisions are great. The streamline helps a lot. It's always good. It helps focus, clarify. I really like the Figure 2 document, the driver's actions and inputs. I like that staff is committing to specific actions to help achieve certain measures. As to the report card itself, I like some things about it. I like that the academic and climate is in one document. We can see it all at once. We can easily see whether progress is being made, it's going in the right direction. I will say what I like less is it feels more like the old way of doing things where we saw data when it was kind of too late to do anything about it, as opposed to monitoring checkpoints along the way. So, you know, the goal was to have the board be able to help kind of make sure we're on track for achieving the desired outcomes. You've listed in Figure 2, there's specific actions that are listed that are going to be taken in order to make progress on each driver. And you've included measures to determine if that progress is actually being made. So this is perfect. I trust that you're going to take these actions, and I would like the board to verify that you're doing so. And I'm saying this because given this district's history over decades, I think the board needs to err a little more on the side of closely monitoring progress and holding staff accountable for doing the things you're telling us you're going to do. And I do want to say that I'm really aware that what I'm suggesting is a slippery slope to micromanaging staff work. And so I want to make it very clear that our role as a board in general is to hold staff accountable for outcomes, not to tell you how to do your jobs. And so to be crystal clear, I do not want in any way this board to be providing oversights over the specifics of the work that you're doing. You guys have full control over determining what needs to be done. All I'm saying is that you've told us now what you need to do, and I want us to share accountability for making sure it actually gets done. So I think we need to get, what I would like to see is some regular status updates on the measures for the 6 drivers. And a lot of those we're seeing anyways. We're seeing attendance data, we're seeing DNF reports, but some of those we aren't seeing. I don't want staff to do extra work for this, so I'm talking about something really simple. It's work you're telling us you're doing. I just want you to tell us that you've done it. So, I mean, I have an example of an idea is it could be like that Figure 2, that table that's there, that could just be an info item on the board agenda at regular intervals. I don't know if it has to be every meeting, it could be every month, whatever. Similar to the Title IX and the PRA reports that we have, maybe with just an additional column that says like status update. And I'm thinking about something like parent feedback survey, which is in there. I trust that you're actually going to administer the survey and you're going to evaluate the data. So the info item could just, I don't know, include the dates that it was or will be administered, and maybe a brief breakdown of the results if you've done work that makes that easy to plunk out and put in the report. And then for any measure with no new data, you could just say no new data to report. I really think including this info regularly just as a board item, as an info item, would let us as a board compare sort of longitudinally meeting to meeting, confirm that the actions are actually being done, and then conversely, if expected timelines aren't being met, we can just ask about it. I know this work is already happening, and I also know that staff and principals and everyone is pulled in a million different directions. And so my hope would be that putting this on board agendas will keep the urgency of the work, will keep the priority front and center. We'll give you guys some cover, frankly, to push back when you get pushback and say, we gotta do this, because the board is gonna be looking at it. So those are my thoughts. I'm interested in what my colleagues think, because obviously I'm just one board member and I can't direct anything myself. Maybe the rest of you think the report card is fine, but I'm concerned there's not enough points along the way for us to sort of check and make sure it's happening. I don't want to get back to the opening this oven and the cake isn't baked place again. Those are my thoughts.
Mr. Collins.
Thank you. Thanks for that report, and thanks again for all that public comment. That was helpful. First, just on Ms. Letter-Merrick's comment, I mean, I think that's a good idea. When we have not, this is an area traditionally that we've made a lot of, we've been writing checks that we've been unable to cash. So it makes sense to monitor more closely. I think the way she suggested is one way. Another way is to put, I'd say the maximum would be maybe 3 items on the board calendar, three updates. And just say, let's have and that could be in addition to what Ms. Letter-Merrick said. It could be an alternative. That's really, up to you guys what you think is best. But I think more closely monitoring, I mean, the point you make, as always, you made such insightful points, you're welcome, is that it really helps to hold the board accountable as well, as opposed to, just waiting to see the report card at the end of the day and saying, I'm so disappointed. Here we're complicit, and if we're not making progress, then it's on us to help you figure out how to.
We want to share the accountability.
Yeah, so I think that's a great way to put it, and I think that's a good idea. The other point that I wanted to make, which has nothing to do with the presentation today and more with the promise in general, is that we've had the structure where we have key strategies, and then what are called, how will we measure progress, parentheses, key performance indicators. And I'm a big fan of outcome measures, as probably everybody who comes to board meetings knows. And here we've got, and if you look at the document as a whole, we have some areas where we have crisp, clear outcome measures, early literacy being the most clear. And then others where it's mixed. So for instance, in the innovation, what is it called? Innovation, it's just called innovation. In the innovation area, there's like one specific one, increased participation in innovative programs across student groups, increased participation in CCAP dual enrollment by 10% by the end of the school year, and then there are additional bullets that are similar. It's like, boom, you know exactly what you're supposed to do and whether you did it or not. Some of the other things are more like to-do items, establish a communication plan, expand opportunities. No, that's okay. I'll just stop reading them. But what I'd urge you to do is, as we iterate on this, I'd love to see us kind of develop those kind of crisp metrics, outcome metrics, student metrics for each one of these, and kind of try to separate them out from the to-do list kind of things, which are appropriate. I mean, you guys want to write down the things you need to do. That's part of the plan. But those aren't really if we get to the end of the year and we established the communication plan and we did whatever, we did the survey, but it didn't move student outcomes, then I don't give us partial credit for having done all those things. I mean, we basically didn't accomplish what we thought we were going to accomplish, and we should think hard about why. So it'd be good to, as we evolve the report, to move it in that direction and kind of very clearly develop as we have I think we started out with almost none of our KPIs looked like those kind of crisp things. And now we've moved to some of them do. And, you know, just like I remember even in my age, even when I was in elementary school, has some capability, has more capability, has full capability. It's the same kind of report card here, I think, as I had in second grade. So that's the main thing I asked for, because I don't want to leave when, you know, I'm getting to the point. I remember Mr. Dauber being like this and making fun of him. It's like, you know, my end is in sight in terms of my board participation. And one of the things I really wanted to leave the board knowing is that we kind of adopted an approach of student-oriented outcome focus. Because in my experience, I mean, and now as I've worked with districts in other places, the districts that succeed focus on student outcomes, period. If you're not focused on student outcomes, then you're not going to achieve them. That's just the way it works. So it'd be great to see us very explicitly focus in all the areas that we care about to really focus on student outcomes. And end of speech, sorry about going so long.
Student board reps who have finals and final projects, and we're keeping you later and later. Thank you for this. I mean, I think just like you said, simplifying it in so many ways, not in taking out the meat, but in just making it as clear as we can and clean as we can. I think that really helps. I like the report card. I am happy to discuss in agenda setting the things that my colleagues have, you know, brought up and figure out where they fit in and what makes sense to bring back. My hesitation with this sort of consolidated report card was, hey, now we're presenting not by focus groups, and have been assured that the work of focus groups is still happening. And so to me, that's sort of the question, like I believe it is happening site by site, but that might look different at different sites. So figuring out where this looks good to me and I think is clear and easy to digest a couple times a year, and how can we elevate that different work is happening at different sites? And maybe that's in the SIPSA, or maybe that's in you know, I mean, I think there's lots of places it could be. So I think that's a conversation that we can have. As for the rest of the promise, it looks good to me. I am, you know, I'm thinking about, I mean, the past couple of board meetings, especially obviously this board meeting, thinking about what you said about resilience last time. People, I think, took differently than you intended it. We've talked so much, right, about attention versus impact. And that, of course, makes me think when we talk about it, the fact that I can't tell you how many staff members in this district I've talked to that a community member has said something that I don't think they meant, I don't think they intended, but it really had a significant impact on our staff. And so I think that in all directions, there are these impact intention issues happening. And all it does is foster doubt and distrust, right? And so I think that this board and this staff who has been tremendous in moving the work that we've requested you to move forward, has been frustrated in trying to find a balance between, oh yeah, we really can't talk about that. You know, that's something that there's confidentiality issues, or yep, this is the way we interpret it, and this is the way we pay the people to interpret it, and this is what they say, and I know that doesn't comport with what you think. It doesn't mean that there's ill intent. It means that there is distrust being sown, and what happens is it has a negative impact on the well-being of the district, of the students, of the parents, of the staff, of the board, sure. And so it's something that I think, I love having the resilience item in here, and I think I understood what you intended when you said it, and it made total sense to me. So I think that I like having these in here. I want to have them in here. Ms. Siegel suggested a couple of edits, which I think are fine. But I think that we have to think bigger picture as a district in staff feels that they're doing what's right for kids. The board is trusting the staff that has been hired to do the work. Some members of the community are not feeling heard or not feeling supported, and that doesn't serve anybody well. And it doesn't mean that a community member that asks for something always gets what they ask for, but certainly finding ways to redevelop that trust and make sure our communication lines are open, which doesn't, I mean, I have heard some community members say, like, you're not listening to us. And all I can figure out that means is you're not doing what we're asking you to do. And if there's a reason we're not doing it, that doesn't mean that we didn't listen. It just means we landed in a different place. But I think that the communication, we need to keep working on it. Not just the communication we put out, but the back and forth, right? So I just think that we are going to get better outcomes, and we're going to be better on this well-being if we get better at that, whatever that means. And one of the things I've really admired about the staff is that we've said, like, hey, we've all got limited time doing this work, and this work matters for every week and every month and every year that we're not serving kids. That matters, so go and go fast. And sometimes go fast means that we don't slow down along the way to engage, repeatedly or engage a lot. And so there's a balance there, right? So I think when we're thinking about our well-being and our resilience, I love it all. And I want us to think about what that can look like on a practical level for our principals, for our central administration, for our board, for our superintendent, for our ad hoc committees, for all of it. And I hope that if it is clear that we are sort of in a model of continuous improvement, because I think that we've all been working at it really hard, that members of the community will come to that too, because I think that has been shut down in some places as well. So all we can do is our best, and all we can do is like move forward from here. So it's just what I'm thinking about as I read this whole well-being one and this whole resilience one. I'm thinking, what's best for our kids, and it's a way to find some positive ways forward. So thank you for that little, what'd you call it, speech? What'd you give? Your dialogue, right? So there's no action on it. I think that agenda setting has a couple of questions and thoughts that we will bring into agenda setting to try to incorporate and think about if anything else comes back again. I don't know, I feel like we've seen this a bunch of times. But make sure that we've hit the ideas that the board has requested. If that is it, then I think that we are on to information items, which we have one public comment for, I think.
Declaration of emergency.
Oh, gosh. See, I just can't manage the agenda. Thank God you're all here. Declaration of need for emergency. Yeah, it does.
That would be me. Okay, a little background on this item is, this is basically a somewhat routine process that the California Commission on Teaching Credential requires every district to submit annually. This is for districts that, in order to request limited assignment and emergency permits for certificated employees, districts are required to submit this annual declaration. Basically what this is it's what we believe is our anticipated needs that will develop throughout the year. So we have to consider all possibilities in terms of grade levels and subject areas. So limited assignment permits, I want to make clear, are issued to fully credentialed teachers. So our teachers that we will be seeking, that we listed as a potential for a limited assignment permit, are already fully credentialed. So for example, if you have a high school teacher that is teaching in science and teaches physics, but you need them to pick up a section of chemistry, and they do not have that, they would get a limited permit to do that approval. So there is a little bit of anticipating and projecting of what our needs will be. As far as you'll see also for the emergency CLAD, the B-CLAD permit, those are usually for teachers that come from out of state. They've been credentialed out of state, they move to California, they need to get the proper B-CLAD credential. And then the final thing I just want to share is that the Declaration of Need focuses on anticipated needs, but it's also important to point out that any additional needs that develop, say, for example, we have a shift in enrollment, staffing, something where we need to come back and say to the commission, hey, we have additional ones, that has to come back to the board for approval, and then we take it back to the CTC at a later date, usually in the fall, based on our staffing. So that's what this is tonight. It'll come back to you. Today it is on discussion. It comes back to you on action the next meeting. We've submitted to the commission. Okay. So.
Yes, Mr. Collins.
Just a brief question, and Mr. Bahadur Singh knows what it is. So there are three, I believe, spots indicated for in special education. And because it happened one year and we have to now check, I now ask every year. None of those represents mild mod certificated staff being asked to cover
No, that's correct.
moderate
I think
severe
one of them
classrooms.
is, for example, an individual that has a early childhood special ed credential, and there's a possibility that they may, depending on what staffing and enrollment is, that there could be a potential for an elementary ed specialist permit.
Okay. I just ask, I mean, the example that you give with a physics teacher picking up chemistry, presuming that if the person has the knowledge, then I'm sure that'll work. Mod severe classrooms are pretty different from mild mod services, because in particular when you're in a learning center environment. So I try to very jealously protect the interests of those students in making sure, and the teachers, because being in a classroom without proper training and certification can be a recipe for real burnout and stress. So just want to make sure, and it sounds like we're
That's always a priority for us to address those same concerns.
Glad to hear it. Thank you.
Either one of you guys? Either one of you guys? My only question, really just more of a curiosity question. If we are short one bio section, and so you say maybe we put a chemistry teacher on them, I might have had that backwards, physics, chem, I don't know. Do we lead with, hey, do you feel qualified to teach chem? Or are we like, hey, you're science? Like how do we identify someone? Are we like,
I think
you're science? Right? I mean, I'm trying to understand, like, how do we decide that? Is it a volunteer basis, or they did graduate work in it, or
Can you teach chem for us?
they feel competent in it?
No, I think that's actually something we work with the site leadership, with the teachers, with the ILs, department chairs, all that, to kind of say, we have this opening, is there an opportunity? Some of that may involve a teacher teaching over the top, an extra assignment. We have teachers some of that are 60%, some are 80%. So we always want to offer that to explore what our credentialing is of our existing staff, because it's a lot easier than going to try and find someone that can, hey, can you teach just one section of a particular subject? So it's always trying to evaluate and have that conversation with our existing staff. And in a lot of cases, they really stepped up and helped us out in those unique situations.
Great, thanks. Okay, which means now I think we are on to the info items, 8, and we have one comment over Zoom from Devin.
Hello, can you hear me?
Ken.
Okay, cool. I just want to correct the record on some dual enrollment topics before the recommendations are finalized next meeting. So I guess first, it's not really accurate for PAUSD to refer to dual enrollment as high school courses that have gone through curricular alignment. I say this because Ed Code 76004 specifically identifies dual enrollment with special part-time students. And per Ed Code, these are just any high school students who are also enrolled in some community college classes. This definition is further confirmed by Legal Opinion 1602 from the California Community College Chancellor's Office. So PAUSD's own definition doesn't really match statute, and there's certainly no mention of high school courses anywhere in dual enrollment Ed Code. Second, the PAUSD board amended policy 6146.11 in 2014 to allow non-CCAP dual enrollment courses during the school day. So this amendment explicitly states that any community college student must first check in with the front office before entering campus, just like any other visitors. And this amendment was to accommodate Foothill's Nano 10 class during the school day, and this ran for at least 3 or 4 years. I can tell you for certain that this class was taught during 6th period by Foothill faculty Bob Cormia in the fall of 2017. So there's plenty of precedent for non-CCAP dual enrollment courses taught by Foothill faculty during the school day. Lastly, the assignment of high school credit for a college course is an entirely separate topic from how the course is offered, and it's covered by Ed Code subsection 48800C. State law is permissive here, so this becomes a local decision. I've included these comments in this week's board packet as well for anyone to review. And in the meantime, I encourage board trustees to familiarize themselves with dual enrollment statute and the variety of positive ways that it's changing the education landscape. I look forward to hearing from staff about their hard work on dual enrollment at the next board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Colleagues, anything on any of the info items? Mr. Collins? No. No, 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 no. Okay. Board operations, and then we're going to be done.
I will go quickly. I enjoy sharing about the wonderful events going on in our community. In the last 2 weeks, I will highlight just a few. Last week, I was invited to El Carmelo to read books to the kindergartners during library time. And I want to thank librarian Terry Zunner for his invitation and his dedication as a long-term sub for our district. One of the kindergartners asked if she could hold my hand and walk with her to the door. And it hit me right then, yes, this is why I am here, to have a child say, can I hold your hand? And so I walked her to the door, but then that wasn't it. Then I got to see out on the field, there were CSEA reps. And I thought, what is happening? Well, it was a surprise assembly. And so all the kids were outside and they were so excited, and there was teachers and there was staff. And I got to meet CSEA reps Phyllis and Joan, and they were giving this certificate to Ginny Nagao right there. And I got to witness it. And I just thought, this has been, to me, that's a perfect day. So I just wanted to thank everybody there who was part of it. And yeah, and then last Friday, I attended the Early Childhood Education and Advanced Authentic Research Showcase and Open House. It was a wonderful event. I got to learn more about both programs, and my son was really, really excited to introduce me to the students who came and visited him in his classroom. And so I just wanted to, again, thank the teachers and the staff who make these programs possible. Palo Verde had its end-of-year party and celebration. This time it was called Closed House because we are leaving Greendale. And I just want to thank Palo Verde's principal, Honora Lee, and all of the teachers and the staff for demonstrating resilience during the move. And while at this new site, it was a wonderful end-of-year celebration. And I just wanted to thank the entire staff there, the teachers there, and our principal, and our families and our students. And finally, last week I also attended CSBA's end-of-year meeting with County Superintendent Marianne Duan. I learned about COVID updates, analyzed suspension rates in the county, studied progress on climate-resilient California schools, and participate in board member discussions with board members across the county. And I just wanted to say I'm very grateful for these professional development opportunities, as I have a growth mindset and really enjoy these opportunities. Thank you.
Mr. Darup?
I can't really beat that.
Okay, I've got a couple things. I'll go as quickly as I can. It has been brought to my attention over the past several months that a few of the practices that we've always engaged in, as long as I've been on the board and longer, that I learned when I was in agenda setting as a vice president to a president, don't always align with some board bylaws that were written 15, 20 years ago. And I think that BPRC has been working on updating some policies. I don't necessarily have an agenda whether we want to change the bylaws to match the practices or whether we want to change our practices to match the bylaws. But I think that whatever our bylaws say is what we should be doing. So I think BPRC has started that work. And I am interested in sort of expanding that to our bylaws, and maybe I was thinking we talk in agenda setting about at next board meeting proposing an ad hoc for our 2 BPRC members to just continue their work over the summer, even though BPRC won't be meeting, so we can get through this work and sort of get in line. Does that comport with something that?
Yeah, so we actually, after requests from a couple of board members, BPRC has taken up aligning the board bylaws and policies with practice.
Great.
At least crafting recommendations for the board to review and discuss and approve, which is our purview. So this would align with that, and I think I can speak for myself, but I'd be happy to work with Ms. Siegel over the summer on continuing that work.
Okay, I'm happy to talk to you guys offline about it, but
Yeah,
it seems like that's just a good idea to get in place as soon as we can. So,
Can I just make a comment with them? This is not agendized, so we can't really discuss it, but I just want to observe. I'm not sure you can have an ad hoc made of the members of a standing committee and pass muster with the Brown Act. So might want to rethink that.
I'll check and see. It seems like if they're doing that work, it makes sense for them to continue it. And yet BPRC doesn't meet over the summer. So we'll see how, we'll look into that. Yes, the Brown Act, that doesn't always make sense, yeah. Okay, really quickly, last week, Canopy did a tree planting at Ohlone in memory of Chuck McDonald, and it was beautiful. It was just a memory. It wasn't like his tree or anything. It was sort of in honor of him. And during one of the previous storms, a big tree that has always been just outside the farm came down. And so it was sort of a perfect place to plant it. And there were members of Canopy there and members of MOT there. There were some tears shed. People loved Chuck. And I believe we are actually also planting a tree at Gunn in the coming weeks, right? So there will hopefully be another opportunity for people to come and sort of celebrate and remember Chuck. But it was a really beautiful ceremony. As Ms. Siegel noted, I didn't even see you at the AAR thing, at the showcase. Yeah, there's been a lot of celebrations at the end of the year, and that's always really fun to go to and to see culminations of student work. And it's funny to see at the high schools, at least, our student faces go from looking super stressed in like March and April to you get to the showcase and they're presenting their poster and it's done and they're, so an exhale. Several of us went to the Hoover Math Olympiad celebration, which was over Zoom last weekend, which was a lot of fun. What else? What do we have here? Oh, elementary schools. A lot of elementary schools are having their reunions for the high school class of 2023 students that graduated from the elementary schools 7 years earlier, and they're inviting students back to the campus on weekends and whatnot. And so I've been a part of a few of them, and they're just so much fun to see the parents go like, oh, I used to remember that kid. Who's that kid? What are they doing? It was really fun. I got to ride in our first electric bus. I was in the Pally parking lot, and suddenly pulling up next to me was Derek, not this Derek, our bus depot Derek. And he said, hey, you want to hop in? I was like, is that electric? And he was actually training. I guess I'll mix these two things out because the shout out today is for our bus manager, our bus depot manager, right? He not only works really hard to train and make sure we've got all the people we need to make the buses go. He manages that depot over there that has, gas buses and diesel buses and electric buses, and there's small buses and big buses and old ones and new ones, and some that are getting repaired. And he's got workers coming in and out, and he was training our 2 new bus drivers in how to drive specifically that bus, because it turns out it has a wider turn radius than some of the other ones. So it was a lot of fun to be there. I really look forward to hearing updates about range and maintenance and costs and everything else. But great progress on that front, and a shout out today to Derek. Hoffman Awards was a fantastic night. Ms. Lettermark and I got to go, and we had mentioned at the last board meeting the next night we were going, and we were really excited to head down there just as one of the 5 programs that were going to be recognized, the Child Development Pathway and Miss McDaniel, and it got the top prize of the night, which was really exciting. More tears, lots of excitement, celebration. There were a lot of staff there. It was really a nice night. And I already shouted out to Derek. So that is it for me. Sorry. Nothing? Okay, it is 9:15. Okay, this meeting is adjourned.